our residents. So that was a busy 2 weeks, and I'll turn it over actually to Dr. Morgan.
Thank you, appreciate it. One of the duties I have is to coordinate with the hospital, the First Health System, and had a meeting with the CEO, Mickey Foster, last week, and just to, again, discuss different items, things of importance, things like that for us. And took a couple messages. First of all, we had some complaints previously about generator testing. It was very loud. We had not heard anything in the recent past here. They have changed as to what the times are for that. They responded to our request for that, and it seems like that's working very well. So we said thank you for their willingness to work with us on that. Also, we talked about their police force. Some people don't know that they actually started their own police force over at First Health. And Chief Webb commented that it's working out great. They've got a great relationship with them, and so far they've been doing a lot and being able to coordinate with that, but it's taken some of the onus off of our officers and putting it onto theirs, and it's working with them. I was actually found out from Mr. Foster that they actually have 6 former chiefs or assistant chiefs of police in their police department now. So they're using a lot of retirees from different police departments, and that they feel it's running great also, and so they appreciate the interaction they've had with our police force here in Pinehurst. Also, we're talking about different awards and things like that. He mentioned that Forbes just identified them as the 9th best place to work in North Carolina. It's the highest healthcare system on there, which then started another conversation. And I was like, okay, I want a list of all the awards you've gotten in 2025. And they're up for a bunch of them in 2026. We won't hit those right now. But there's 29 overall awards. They're up on the chart there. If anybody wants to get those, you get them from Shannon. I'm not going to read them all, because it's 29. We're not going to belabor this, but I do want to highlight a couple of these. Let's go to Forbes on there. Okay, so the Forbes on there. First Health recognized again as one of America's best in-state employers for 2025, ranked 9th in the state. First Health was named one of America's best large employers by Forbes for 2025. And then First Health was recognized as one of the top 150 places to work in healthcare by Becker's Healthcare 2025. This is the 3rd consecutive year that it's been recognized for that. Let's skip on down now to U.S. News World Report on there. Again, we're glossing over a lot of these other awards, and I do request that you look at that. But First Health and Moore Regional Hospital, including its Hope and Richmond campuses, been once again recognition in U.S. News World Report Best Hospitals ranked for 2025, ranking 5th in North Carolina, including high-performing 19 specialties. And these 19 specialties are obviously specialties that we use often here in Pinehurst. The last one we'll go down to is the American Heart Association. And I won't read all the different ones they've got for that, but the bottom line to the American Heart Association, they have recognized First Health for their treatment in stroke, diabetes, and heart failure. So no matter what health system you have, you're going to have good things, you're going to have bad things that are reported. You're going to have complaints that come out, you're going to have kudos that come in. Not many places have a list of awards like this. And so we are fortunate to have them, in my opinion, fortunate to have them in our community, and doing such a great job with that. We'll continue to work with them, issues that come up, any things that challenge us and take forward, but I did want to just give a little bit of praise to them as the multiple awards they've gotten. That's all I have on them. Last thing I would just say is that Mayor already mentioned October 28th, the NCDOT meeting. I do encourage everyone to attend and give their opinions on the new traffic service. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that update, particularly on First Health. They're our largest employer. Councilwoman Bigelow.
Thank you. Back to the NAC meeting, both presentations from the police chief and fire chief were well received. And one of the messages that was true of the presentation they did for the council, in answer to the question, what is it our residents can do to make their jobs easier? It's really important and very simple. Make our addresses visible from the street. I drove around my neighborhood and was stunned at the amount of properties that you couldn't see what their address was. It's very confusing in the middle of the night or whenever. So keep that in mind. We also had our 7th and final Pinehurst Development Ordinance Update meeting, focus group meeting, on the 17th. We reviewed the final 4 chapters, and that was followed by the community meeting late that afternoon. which was well attended. There were actually 101 attendees at that community meeting. Lastly, yesterday evening, the Pinehurst Business Partners met at We Golf for a round of golf fellowship and also conversation about their very important upcoming event, which you'll hear lots about and see this, which I think they had many of them, you'll see them around, for the Holly Arts Festival, Saturday, October 18th, 10 to 4, Village of Pinehurst. So that's it from me. Thank you.
Councilman Farrell.
Thank you. This is duplicate some items, but I did attend the Moore County Land Use Review meeting in Carthage. Went through that for a couple of days, and it was very interesting. They reviewed all the goals, recommendations, and actions that are suggested by their steering committee. There was 5 goals, 26 recommendations, and 94 action items that were discussed. And many of the action items they felt that were difficult to implement considering the Senate Bill 382, which is now law, or at least for the near future, which restricts the ability of municipalities and counties, obviously, to enact certain land use regulations. So they're a little frustrated with that. So it was a long meeting, interesting, and they did go through all the action plans. And the next step, of course, will be to create the sort of the first final draft of the land use plan for the Moore County. So we're looking for that. It'll be interesting. NAC, good presentations by Chief Webb, and also to the fire chief. A lot of good information for the residents to carry forward to their communities. As the focus group meeting, we had to review the draft chapters on the variances, lots and subdivision standards, and definitions. There's quite a bit to go through. I think there's quite a bit of work left. I think we're going to discuss that in more detail later on as far as status of the PDO update. We did have the open house, 101 non people like staff or something like that, residents I should say, attended. It was really good. I talked to a lot of residents about the PDO, and I sort of took one of the stations. It was the form-based code station because it was kind of near and dear to my heart, and tried to explain it. It's a complex subject to try to explain to residents, to tell you the truth, but I think they did an excellent job for the open house. I also attended that Aberdeen Planning Board meeting for the 305-unit subdivision development proposal just south of Olivia Lane, and that definitely, we should keep an eye on that because it does affect our community to some extent. Also, this morning I participated in the Public Services Department's cooperative highway cleanup and the fall litter sweep. And we picked up, in fact, I think I picked up more cigarette butts than I have since I was at basic training at Fort Knox. It's a lot of cigarette butts. And if anyone's looking for a size 11 men's sneaker, it's in that box, it's in that bag by the side of the road over there. So it was interesting to do. We did 211 from Page Road to Rattlesnake, so it was fun. It was good, actually. I enjoyed it. So that's it.
Okay. All right, that concludes that part of our council meeting. Now we'll move to item 4, which is a motion to approve the consent agenda. All the items listed on the consent agenda are considered routine or have been discussed at length in previous meetings and will be enacted by one motion. No separate discussion will be held unless requested by a member of the village council. We will be approving the regular village council meeting minutes of September 9th, the work session of September 9th minutes, and the closed session minutes of September 9th.
I move to approve all items listed and consider routine on the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that is adopted. Now we have ended that. We will go to item 5, which is a proclamation, because we are in Fire Prevention Week. So this is a Fire Prevention Week proclamation. Doug, do you have anything you want to mention about this, and I will read it? so that it's official.
Well, I'll let you read that, but I'll echo what Barb said just a few minutes ago, that put your address numbers out where they can be seen for our public safety responders to be able to find your home. It'll make a big difference.
Okay. Chief, I see you, and I think I see some of your colleagues, so let me have the honor of reading this, just as I know this is an important matter. Mayoral proclamation, Village of Pinehurst, that whereas the Village of Pinehurst, North Carolina is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting the Village of Pinehurst, and whereas fire remains a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and the presence of lithium batteries in many household devices introduces unique fire risks. And whereas most of the electronics used in homes daily, including smartphones, tablets, laptops, power tools, e-bikes, e-scooters, and toys, are powered by lithium batteries, which, if misused, damaged, or improperly charged, can overheat, start a fire, or explode. Whereas the National Fire Protection Association reports an increase in battery-related fires, underscoring the need for public education on the safe use of lithium batteries, and whereas residents should follow 3 key calls to action: buy only listed products, charge batteries safely, and recycle them responsibly to prevent battery-related fires, of which I think we've had one in this community. Whereas lithium batteries store a large amount of energy in a small space, and improper use such as overcharging, using off-brand chargers without safety certification, or exposing batteries to damage can result in fire or explosion. And whereas the proper disposal and recycling of these batteries help prevent environmental hazards and reduce fire risks in the home and the community. And whereas the Village of Pinehurst first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of fires through prevention, safety, education, and community outreach. And whereas the 2025 Fire Prevention Week theme, Charge into Fire Safety, Lithium Batteries in Your Home, serves to remind us of the importance of using, charging, and recycling such batteries safely to reduce the risk of fires in homes and communities. Now, therefore I, as Mayor of Village of Pinehurst, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim October 5th through October 11th as Fire Prevention Week throughout the Village of Pinehurst. In the testimony whereof, I hereby sign this proclamation, which I will do right now. And Chief, this is for you, and if you have a few words you'd like to say, please do.
Put me on the spot, Mayor.
That's right.
So thank you. So, just thank you so much for the recognition of the hazards that we face each and every day with lithium ion. As the Mayor alluded to, we have had incidents here. And if there's anything we can do with the fire department, answer any questions you have about exactly what we're talking about charging it using listed chargers or anything like that, please call us. We'll be glad to come alongside you, help you out any way that we can. And we do appreciate all the support that the council and management gives us and also the community. And we're here for you. The door is always open. And thank you so much for all that you do. Thank you.
And Chief, would you remind everybody about installing free batteries?
Yes, so one thing, and it may or may not be lithium. So, if you've got a smoke alarm that's not tied to a security system in your home, it's a battery powered, AA battery, AAA, or 9-volt battery. If you need some help with those, getting up there and getting them, especially if they're high up, please call us. We really, that's very important to us. Smoke alarms are often just taken for granted, and they save so many lives. Something that simple can save so many lives. And so please, if you call us, one thing we do ask, and one thing that we're really trying to get people to do is, if you need a battery change, one thing we would say is they've actually got 10-year alarms now. So once every 10 years, you change the battery. So if you don't have a security system in your home, and you have what we call like a freestanding alarm, we would use those, and we recommend that as well. But anything we can do, just reach out to us, call us, and we'd like to help you out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
It talks about off-brand chargers. Like, I don't know if I have one that's on-brand.
I don't know. All right. right, now we'll go on to item 6, public comments. We have some commenters. Yes, we do. All right. Let me, I see there's an arrow here. So I'll follow the arrows. Marie Carberry?
We're actually
together.
Oh, you're in together, okay. Oh, that's what the arrows indicate,
That's the
okay.
arrows.
Kirk, Atkins, and Marie, please, why don't you come on up here, Miss Chair? And,
Marie will sit down.
okay.
And we've got a prepared statement. Would it be, and
Oh,
I
please.
made enough copies for everyone. Would it be
Please,
helpful?
and then also read it for the record so that,
I'm sure Shannon gets one, because she's sort of.
yeah, that's true.
Thank you.
Okay. Like Shannon in the corner there, will be fine. Okay, Kirk, go ahead.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor Pizzella and members of the council. My name is Kirk Atkins, and this is Marie Carberry. Marie is the co-president of the Sand Hills Women's Exchange. The other co-president is Faith Clay, who would have been here tonight, but she's unfortunately out of town. I want to begin tonight by thanking each of you on the council for your service to our community. I know what a time commitment each of you are making, and your efforts are really deeply appreciated. So I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the Sand Hills Women's Exchange. I've been formally appointed by its co-presidents as chairman of the Flood Mitigation Committee. It's an honor to represent such a remarkable and culturally significant institution. The Sand Hills Women's Exchange is surrounded by property owned by the Pinehurst Resort and Country Club. At present, the Sand Hills Women's Exchange building is already suffering from repeated flooding due to stormwater runoff, primarily attributable to the amount of impervious surface of the Pinehurst Resort at the main club. The prosperity of Pinehurst Resort is imperative to the health and well-being of our community. We fervently wish for the resort to thrive. The resort now, though, is proposing a major expansion on land surrounding the Sand Hills Women's Exchange. They are doubling the square footage of the tennis courts, or the tennis and fitness center, and then they're adding another 53 concrete parking spaces, all of which are adding to the impervious surface. This incremental impervious surface will inevitably increase stormwater runoff and compound the flooding problem that the Women's Exchange cabin experiences. We have reviewed the Pinehurst Resort's HPC application package and find no plans whatsoever for stormwater management. The Pinehurst Historic Preservation Commission will review the resort's project this Thursday, September the 25th. The HPC purview, however, is limited only to architectural design, building materials, aesthetics, congruity, and scale. Stormwater management is outside of their authority. This was confirmed to me directly by your employee, Ms. Maria Klein, the HPC's staff liaison. Ms. Klein, and I'll have to say she was extremely kind and very helpful, but she very politely explained that any questions during the public comments sections for this hearing, and we intend to raise our concerns during that hearing, regarding the resort's application about stormwater plans or drainage will be ruled, quote, out of order, and hence shall have no impact whatsoever on the HPC's approval of that project. Once the Historic Commission grants approval of the resort's HPC application, the project moves to the Village of Pinehurst Planning Department, which does oversee stormwater planning. However, that process is not public, meaning that the Sand Hills Women's Exchange and our community will have no voice or representation concerning the increased likelihood of more flooding and further deteriorating the structural integrity of the Sand Hills Women's Exchange historic cabin. This is why we respectfully appeal to you, the elected representatives of our village. The council does have a voice, and you can intercede on behalf of this historic institution that belongs to our entire community. I urge you to engage directly with Village of Pinehurst Planning Department and make approval of this project by the resort contingent upon a stringent, proactive stormwater management plan. And we have undertaken some engineering studies, and really what needs to happen is there are a couple retention ponds that are near the Sand Hills Women's Exchange now. And in between the Women's Exchange and the mini traffic circle, there's a lot of land there, and that could be dredged out very deeply. And if you think of like Pinehurst Elementary School, if you look at that standing on PD Road, or Dundee, as you stand on Dundee and look at the elementary school off to the left, there is about an acre retention pond that is probably 15 foot deep. And if that were to be built, we believe in the engineering study that we undertook, we believe that that would, if not eliminate the problem, significantly ameliorate that. And so we urge you to make the planning department, make their approval contingent upon that. So without this safeguard, we risk losing not just a building, but an irreplaceable part of Pinehurst heritage. The Sand Hills Women's Exchange stands ready to constructively collaborate with Pinehurst Resort in their stormwater management plans. And I think that extends to giving access to the land, for them to do any studies, helping in any way on the engineering studies, and perhaps working collaboratively, even financially. I don't know what percentage, but some way that we are ready, the Women's Exchange, to work in a constructive manner with the resort. So let's not forget that James Walker Tufts, the founder of Pinehurst, donated the cabin currently being used by the Sand Hills Women's Exchange. I ask you, members of the council, to act as guardians of for both of our history and our future by ensuring that the Sand Hills Women's Exchange cabin remains protected for generations to come. Thank you again, Mayor Pizzella and council members, for your leadership and for listening to this. And Marie would like to just show you from Chantal, you know, that most recent serious storm that we had, a flooding that was occurred predominantly associated with, and talk just a little bit about that extreme
So on
cleanup.
July 6th, Tropical Storm Chantal moved Moore County, as you all know, dumping between 7 and 10 inches of rain in the Pinehurst in less than 6 hours. This large influx of rain in such a short period of time caused water to flow from the nearby road surfaces of Azalea, Village Green East, and Route 2 into detention ponds adjacent to the Sand Hills Women's Exchange. In addition, storm runoff from Pinehurst Resort, access roads, and tennis courts added to the water volume flowing into our ponds and yards surrounding our 200-year-old cabin. Once the rain stopped, water reached levels of 2 feet in the yard east of the cabin, while the west side included the parking lot reached 12 inches. Worst of all was the 2 to 6 inches of flood water inside the cabin. Fortunately, the water did not linger, but the damage was done. This was the most destructive event of the Sand Hills Women's Exchange in 103-year history. And we have spent the summer tearing out floors, rebuilding, so that we could have them. So it was a very destructive storm. So we're hoping that, and of course with them now talking about putting more impervious surface in back of us, this will only increase the runoff.
Okay.
There you go.
I'm going to just ask a question. Have you shared your engineering study with the Pinehurst Resort?
I'll be honest with you, we have tried very politely, kindly, and neighborly to engage with the resort, and they have not participated in any way whatsoever.
Obviously, this,
And it's been on multiple levels with multiple individuals trying to contact them.
it's been a very, this is sort of a timely topic. If you listened earlier when we had a discussion of what the Tri-Cities community was talking regarding stormwater management in general, not specific to the exchange. I have one question that perhaps the village manager knows the answer to. In your statement, you said that you revised that the resort's application about stormwater plans or drainage, any questions regarding that will be ruled as out of order. I'm curious, is it will or may be ruled out of order? Is are we familiar with that?
So it is will, the HBC has to deal with HBC related items. But thank you for bringing this to our attention. We can address it on the staff level when they come in, ask for their permits. Will this go to TRC? Do you know, Carlton? Yeah, so, yes, it will go through our technical review committee. So the engineer will be able to look at it and make sure that stormwater is addressed. We can also reach out to the resort and have a conversation with them to make sure that we protect an asset to the community.
In their application package, there was no reference whatsoever
Yeah,
to stormwater management.
and if there wasn't, we'll make them address that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, appreciate it.
Any other comments from council members? Okay.
I just wanted to mention the HBC is a quasi-judicial evidentiary hearing, so there are restrictions as far as who has standing and
Yeah.
what information they can accept as part of the decision process.
There's lots of routes we can go on this thing, and it starts with a conversation. And then, yeah, we'll have a conversation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks, Kurt. Appreciate it.
Thank you, great job.
Thank you.
Next person who asking to speak is Mr. Kevin Fitzpatrick of Pinehurst number 6.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I've come merely to say thank you on behalf of the members of the Pinehurst number 6 Community Association, the 700 member households out there. The sidewalk project that you have supported has been a great success. And even phase 1 is coming near to completion. I know you're picking this up on your agenda later today, but every day we have residents out there using the resource that you've funded and supported, and it looks great, organically fits into the community in a very nice way. The reason we've been so successful with this project is Mike Apke and his team. He is out there, he and his team are out there all the time talking to the affected neighbors who have concerns about their lawns and things, working very closely with the contractors who are doing a great job and are very responsive to the concerns of the residents. So just wanted to say thank you, and we hope we continue to push on with that project. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that. All righty, that concludes public comments of those who have asked to speak. Is there anyone else who had not signed up and would like to still address the council? Come forward. And please identify yourself.
Hello, I'm Debbie Layler, and I'm here to actually address two separate issues. One is the PDO update effort ongoing, and I would just like to register my personal belief that interactive meetings such as the one that was held on the 17th are ineffective, expensive, inefficient, and a waste of time for village staff, our consultants, the members of the focus team, the members of the council who were there just to be nice. I had to stand 2 feet away from the placard so 2 people at a time could read. As you noted before, it is complicated stuff. I've been looking at it this afternoon online. I've gone through it 3 times, and it is difficult to understand. And I've concluded that what was presented is really a list of what has been done, but it does not show us how it is laid out in the text of the PDO. I get it. I get that you rewritten this, but how did you rewrite it? So that's sort of where I come out on that. And if this is on a time clock of, you have to have a public meeting, and then 2 weeks later you go to planning and zoning, and then 2 weeks later you go to village council, in my opinion, the public hearing process has not even begun because we've not been given access to all the information yet. What's online as of this afternoon is not adequate. So that's my personal opinion. And I was, moreover, a little bit disappointed with what I saw that was applicable to the resort's current application before the planning department and the HBC, because when it came to landscape buffers, again, this comes to the fact that we're seeing a limited piece of what will be ultimately the entire chapter when it comes to commercial parking lots and landscape buffers. So it was very frustrating. And the same would hold true for erosion and sedimentation plans, floodplain. We have not been given access to the full review of the PDO, and I find that very frustrating. So I will say in reference to the application for the new parking lot, that the plan as it exists now that's been submitted to the planning department, which is captioned at the top by saying that the plan is submitted, meets all of the planning department's requirements. I don't think that's a true statement. There's no soil and erosion and sedimentation plan for what's going to happen to mitigate erosion and sedimentation during the construction process. There's no parking lot drainage plan. There is a landscape buffer plan, but if you look at it, the parking lot is so aggressive, it goes into the setback of the resort's property line. So very aggressive coming on to the Women's Exchange property line. And the landscape buffer in this instance, if a planted buffer is not going to work, frankly, and I looked again, headlights, you have to just figure out what the village wants to achieve with its ordinances. If a landscape buffer is for a commercial lot is intended to block headlights, tree trunks are not going to do it. Just sorry, they're not. And even if you look at the really quite expensive and wonderful buffer around the spa parking lot, where they have the brick wall and then about 15 feet of planted material, you still see the brick wall through it. So when the time comes to really rewrite these ordinances, I hope we will really take a serious look at the effectiveness of landscape buffers. And just coincidentally, this project is a really good place to start. So anyway, I look forward to the presentation from the consultant on this, and I look forward to seeing a final draft of how the chapters are going to be merged and things simplified. It's a great first step, but it's like a first step. So, okay, and we only have 9 days for the next meeting on this. So
That's true.
got a lot of information to digest. Thank you, and you will do such a great job, and Kirk is so much nicer than I am. Really appreciate it.
Let me write that down.
Is there any comments from the folks on our PDO?
Maybe I can address one of the comments. So we're discussing it today in significant detail, not so much that we're going to be here for hours. So it'll stay at a 10,000 foot level. But the PDO draft was forwarded to our communications person to put on today. So I don't know if it is on there right now, but it will be either tonight or first thing tomorrow morning. And we're also trying to put a document together that does a detailed comparison of what was changed and the old versus the new. As of the last draft, it was 20 pages long, so it should have significant detail for people to look at. And we'll cover it all today.
Can I just add one thing?
Yep.
The Butterfly Festival is rain or shine.
Rain or
It looks like
shine.
it's going to rain. Rain or shine, come help tag butterflies and really sing. Sorry, I didn't say that.
All right. Yeah. Nothing? Okay. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward and have something to offer? Public, in the way of a public comment? Okay. Well, that concludes the public comments item of our agenda. And now we will move on to resolutions. And the first one is to consider Resolution 2545, authorizing the exchange of certain real property with Moore County, specifically 55 Rattlesnake Trail. You're probably aware that this is something we have discussed at the council level for some time now, and it's actually coming to fruition. Doug, please.
Yeah, we actually approved this back in July, but the county document asked if we could do an official resolution so that they can record the resolution. So we will give that to the county, and in exchange, we will receive the parcels that the EMS station are on McCaskill Road. So it's 2 separate lots. Based on tax value, we come out slightly ahead, so. I don't know if there's any other questions. We already have discussed this, so I don't know if there's anything else that you want me to go into in detail.
Not that I'm aware of, though. I turn to council members, Dr. Morgan, Jack?
No.
Nothing?
Just the first step in the long-term objective to revitalize the village place area.
Right. So it's always good to be able to cooperate with a fellow government agency, and it worked out to both of our benefits. So, okay, we shall entertain action on this.
I move to approve Resolution 2545, authorizing the exchange of certain real property with Moore County consisting of the Village of Pinehurst vacant lot located at 55 Rattlesnake Trail, parcel ID number 100000849, and Moore County's developed lots located at 290 McCaskill Road East, parcel ID numbers 0002497 and 201000145, and further authorizing the village manager to execute the land exchange agreement and associated deeds and negotiate and execute a lease agreement with the county's continued use of the existing public safety facility in the transition period while the new facility is constructed.
Have a motion by Dr. Morgan,
Second.
second by Councilman Ficklin. All those in favor? It's adopted. Thank you. Now we go on to item 8, which is ordinances. We're going to consider ordinance 25-15, amending the library expansion capital project fund budget. Doug, go ahead.
Well, Dana can address this too, but last time we approved the contract for the construction of the new library, so we are just amending the budget to cover that contract amount.
Yep, and as it's noted here, in addition to the $4,449,000, that is was the amount of the construction bid that was awarded, we are in the budget amendment adding an additional $445,000, which is 10% approximately around it, of the construction cost as an estimate for furniture, fixtures, and equipment that will need to be purchased to outfit the library building when it's constructed, as well as another $445,000 as a 10% contingency for the construction, for change orders, things that may arise during the course of the project. So that covers the construction piece of the budget amendment, and then just to round out the remainder of our contract with Oakley Collier, it does include, I think it's about $106,000 already that is approved in that contract. That is for construction administration services that they will provide. But during the design phase, we did have some additional reimbursable expenses. The most significant was the geotechnical survey that added up to a little over $9,000. And so that kind of ate into the available budget balance that's needed to cover the full Oakley Collier contract. So this budget amendment also includes adding, kind of replenishing that $10,000 to make sure we have a sufficient budget available for the construction phase of the Oakley Collier contract. And funding for this, it's primarily from general fund transfers, but we are also amending it with an estimated additional $25,000 in investment income. Based on the amount that has been earned so far, it's more than what we had originally estimated for the budget.
Remind me of the carryover money that we had in the past. How does that fit into these figures?
Yes, so the fund balance that's been building up in there from money that's already been transferred from the general fund over the last several years, that is taken into account in that we have a total estimated budget of 5.9, almost 6 million is what we will be amending the budget to. But we only need to increase the general fund appropriations, or the transfers from the general fund by a little over 1.5 million to be able to get the budget to that $5.96 million number,
Okay.
because of those, contributions we kind of have already made in advance to the fund. So, and what we had budgeted in FY26 as an estimate of what would need to be transferred was about 1.9 million. So what we are kind of now estimating we'll need, with a lot more information on the construction cost, is actually about 500,000 less than, or about 400,000 less than what we had estimated we would need to transfer. As the project progresses and the fiscal year progresses, we'll determine, do we want to just transfer the full 1.9 million we have budgeted, knowing that we have the archives project that will follow, and other things that we will need additional money in the capital project fund for. But at least at this point, it's favorable in terms of what we had originally planned on in the FY26 budget
Okay,
for that transfer.
thank you. Any other questions for Dana or Doug, council? No? Okay, hearing that, is there further action council would like to propose?
I move to approve ordinance 2515, amending the library expansion capital project fund budget.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion adopted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we go on to extension. And we're on to item 9, regular business. We have 4 items listed. And the first item is to consider extension of Juniper Creek Boulevard sidewalk project. So I see Mike out here, and you can lead off. And Doug, you have something to add? Go right ahead.
You want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So as Mr. Fitzpatrick mentioned earlier, this project has been well received by the community around Juniper Creek Boulevard. We funded previously from this starting point at the southern entrance to the neighborhood to up here to Deerwood Lane. So that project is going to be wrapping up in the next few weeks, probably mid-October. What we have in the current fiscal year 26 budget is an additional $460,000 for construction of sidewalks. So when we were putting together the budget, and also when the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee was considering what to spend that money on, the idea was to continue on this Juniper Creek Boulevard sidewalk project. That additional $460,000 would probably get us to about here. This is Hampshire Lane. What we would like council's consideration on is, in addition to the $460,000 that's already been budgeted, would you consider an additional $500,000 appropriation from fund balance to complete the loop and get us all the way down to here at the beginning of the north entrance to the neighborhood?
Would that include the other brown street?
No, this is Deerwood Lane. We considered doing this, but I think the plan now is to complete Juniper Creek Boulevard loop, and then maybe spread some love to another neighborhood and do some sidewalks there, and eventually Deerwood might be one that bubbles up to be funded again.
Okay.
Slight change from some of the information that was provided in the packet. We were originally hoping to use the contractor's existing unit pricing, but as we did some research, and we're blaming Dana for this because she did the research, that it's probably not appropriate to do a change order for $1 million when the original project is $1 million. So we will be going out to bid for the remainder of the portion, whether that's just the $460,000 we have now, or if council wants us to, or would allow us to use an additional $500,000 to complete the loop, that would be great. So,
Can I add something to that too? Those are estimates based on the current unit prices that we got from the contractor. We bid it out back in April, so it could go up, it could go down, but we do have to bid that out. So those are estimated numbers, what we think it's gonna take to finish that, but we would have to come back, we'd have to actually put another bid package out and come back to you with actual construction costs. So it could be higher, it could be lower than that.
But rough order of magnitude.
Order of magnitude, the question is, we think we can do what we have in the budget and get to Hampshire where the creek crossing is right there. That's a pretty significant creek crossing we'd have to do. Or do we bid out all the way to the northern entrance? Either way, we'd be coming back to you for approval of that.
Okay, so you would revisit that when you get after the bid out. Okay, I'm very comfortable moving forward on this, but I ask fellow council members to weigh in.
I would just add, well, I would recommend that we do complete the whole project. We finished last year's budget, fiscal year 25, $800,000 over what the original budget was. So even if we spent $500,000 of fund balance now, it wouldn't negatively affect any of our 5-year projections or anything we're currently counting on using that money for already.
So we've looked at this section as doable, and there's a lot of ups and downs in that section of Juniper.
Great question. I think this section is easier than
Really?
the first section that we did. There's a couple of difficult spots. One is that creek crossing just to the west of Hampshire, but to be honest with you, Jack, I think it's easier and less trees coming down, less grading, and so, potentially the price could come down.
So when that ends up on 15501, is there a pedestrian crossing there? I forget whether there's a trailhead there or not.
There is a stoplight there now. What I would suggest is that we stop at Spring Lake Road for
Yeah, I
now.
was
And the
gonna say.
reason for that is, number one, you see the creek there and the hatching that's wetlands there. I think as a future project, what we would look at, Doug, correct me if I'm wrong, is to go up Spring Lake, which is a DOT road, so we would have to get their approval to
Yeah.
do that, and
Well-
look at an actual crossing right there, and there is a trail that comes down to the end of Spring Lake Drive right there. So we would have another connection to make there, but that's gonna involve adjustments to traffic signals, probably push-button crosswalks and DOT approval, and that's gonna take some time to.
Yeah, we were
design
talking
again.
about sometime about having some type of cart access that comes down Juniper Creek and then is able to cross over 15501 legally,
Mhm.
which would mean taking it to the southern traffic light rather than cross over and then stay on 15501, which they don't like at all.
So, yes, ultimately that would be the plan, but wouldn't be as part of this project. We would end this project here and then have to engineer all that and get it approved by DOT, which would certainly slow down being able to complete this part.
And we don't know when they're gonna do the expansion or what road widening project.
We know it's not gonna be for a long time.
Okay.
They wanna do that as part of the traffic circle project, so it wouldn't be
29.
started until.
2031 is the date, May.
Well, I mean, if this is successful, which it already is, I think it creates an excellent example for other neighborhoods that have been more than reluctant for sidewalks, such as St. Andrews and so forth, which we kind of went down that road a few years ago and were unsuccessful in convincing the community that it made sense. So this could be a good example.
Sure.
Plus, I think it just makes sense to finish a project that you start. Leaving it halfway in the middle of a neighborhood doesn't.
Yeah, no, I see a lot of people walking on the road there, and it really be nice to have something.
I don't disagree with anything anybody has said here. I got a couple questions. I think I'm missing something. We usually do, or planning for big items throughout the year. We put it on a 5-year plan and stuff like that. All of a sudden, this is just popping up saying, let's spend $1 million on another or more sidewalk. What's the impetus of this?
No, you're right. So the plan was the $460,000 that we budget each year would go towards this project until it was done. So we're just asking to do it a year sooner and complete the project all at once. So this was the next prioritized project on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee multimodal report.
So effectively, we've got this planned out to come anyway. We're just saying, let's pay for it now and
Let's do
not
it a little
just
sooner.
a little sooner, and we'll catch up later and all that kind of stuff.
And part of that reasoning behind that was, we have great unit pricing and we should take advantage of it while we can, until Dana told us we couldn't do that. So not to give Dana too much of our time, but she's just trying
Okay.
to.
And now, are we gonna be jumping the gun? I mean, right now, we've got anecdotal reports from HOA that things are great, everything we've seen so far have been, positive. Few detractors on there. Are we not studied this enough? You think we have studied enough? Are we comfortable moving forward?
I'm comfortable moving forward. When we surveyed all the residents, we did survey all of this portion as well. So this portion also had much more support and less detractors from when we did our survey a couple of years ago.
I agree totally with Jack said also, yet, the idea that neighbors and other neighborhoods would look at putting sidewalks. I agree with Bart, what you're saying there, completing a project. That's what I will, and I'm going to support this, but I also want to just throw a caveat. We've talked about a ladder truck for a long time. What's the current amount for that? What, 2.3 million, 1.7 million? What's the latest number for that?
That was 2.5 million was the latest number.
Latest number is
And we had,
1.7.
and it wasn't referred to us for consideration in our last budget meeting.
No, I understand. I throw that out. That there are competing items on there, and to make sure that we don't lose track of that. So,
And I will tell you from my own experience of attending the HOA meetings of Pinehurst number 6, in the most recent one, they concluded with a discussion of the sidewalks, and there was a question posed of how many people were satisfied with the project as so far, and almost every hand in an audience of close to 150 people went up. So we are doing our job as a village well in response to a community that wants these sidewalks. As Jack referenced earlier, there are some communities that didn't want them. So why? We went where the ducks are. And this is a good situation, and I think the timing is right, which is why I'm fully supportive of this.
Yeah. So at this point, council doesn't need a vote on anything, but if your direction is go ahead and get bids on the entire section, we'll do that. We'll come back with formal bids for you to approve a contract and amendment for.
I think that's the direction of the council.
I support that.
Okay, here we go. Thank you. Let's go on to item B, which is the Parks and Recreation Departmental Overview. Angie and Doug. Doug, if you want to lead into this, or just throw it at Angie.
I will pitch the ball to Angie. Which screen would you like up there first?
I'd like to do the video first, please, if you can.
I didn't know there was a video.
Sorry, a little bit,
Oh, this?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Here we go.
I approached that orange team, by the way.
Sure I'm sure that won some awards at the Cannes Film Festival, so Angie, please.
We just wanted to do something a bit more than a PowerPoint presentation. We thought the video might help share the story a little bit better and what Parks and Recreation does and the people that we touch. So that is Judas' work. So we have a longer version with some additional marketing pieces that play on the screen at the community center. So it was merely my idea, but Judith did the work to put that together and find some instrumentals to put that to. So I put together just a basic, a little bit of a stat sheet, a little bit of data sheet. That is the Word document that you have in front of you. Some of those are the same as what you have seen in previous presentations, but I did go through and update our program numbers, our participation numbers, and then added under Roman numeral 6, our completed projects, and to make sure we included our distinct divisions in that as well. So that's sort of a little bit of an overview as to that. And then you can go to the next one, Doug, if you want to. And then this sheet you might be a little bit familiar with because this is the backup data from the scorecard. And I wanted to just go over a couple things real quickly with you. This is Marie's work. She put this together for you all to take a look at. So the first box on the left-hand side is resident and non-resident, and it's broken down by our number of program participants. And then the middle box is athletics that's carved out, and then the one on the right-hand side is the total of those. So you should see progression in numbers as you go through there. And then the right-hand side is youth and adult participants, because that's one of the questions that we have in the scorecard as to how we track those. So, go ahead, sir.
Question, is there a chart comparing this over the last few years? Or what, can we see the growth or the decline?
We can query anything any questions that you might have and run those through Civic Rec to show you some additional.
I'd just like to see how this rates to the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 years.
Of course, but I would like to point one thing out too, Mr. Mayor, if I can. So on the overview sheet under recreation item B, that number jumped significantly. That number jumped because of the way that we count those. So Judas' number last year was, didn't bring it with me, but so we now count by participation per month, not by registration in 1 month. So for example, many of our programs and our athletics, they're not just for the duration of a particular month. So summer camp would be an example of that. So we didn't want to just count our program participants in the month when folks sign up, but it's almost a 3-month program, so they get counted in each of those months. So you'll see that when you get those numbers from us from last year.
So that would be, someone would be counted 3 times then.
If you participate every month, you would get counted every time. That's
Can I ask
correct.
you one question? It looks like 50% of the participation is from non-residents. Where are they, what areas, not municipalities, or do non-residents come from that participate in our?
Which line are you on?
Well, we just have a total there of 4790 compared to a total of 9105. That's 50% of our.
They come from our surrounding communities. We partner with a lot of communities, so we might offer.
Do we know where they're coming from?
They're coming from Moore County primarily. So for example, the baseball program. We offer baseball services to, I believe it's 9, but the town of Seven Pines will offer those ages at a higher level. So we're not competing with one another. So we offer baseball programs for younger children. We offer them for older children.
So it sort of begs the question, are we offering programs that other municipalities or locations cannot or do not? Or Are they different, or, I mean, why we have 50% participation from non-residents seems pretty good. I mean, I don't know whether it's good or bad, it's just, it's a pretty big number.
It could be that those folks are coming from places that do not offer the services. It could be for they don't have facilities, they don't have staffing, they don't, the
Well, clearly, we
original.
have a huge variety of services and programs, no question about that. So far more than most municipalities probably. So maybe that's the attraction. I was curious whether we keep track of why and or where they're coming from.
We certainly can answer where they're coming from. That would be delving into
Yeah,
their
detailed
accounts.
data
Yeah.
to drag out, but
I think it's also important to note that non-residents pay double the fee, so they are not being subsidized at all, or at least that's the
right,
intent.
that
is
is
that-
important. So are they paying our way then?
Are they paying their
If they're-
way?
If they're paying double fees,
I would
are
say
they
that they are.
subsidizing our residents?
I would say that they're paying their share. I think a resident versus non-resident rate is a standard operating practice in the leisure services field.
We still have a budget for Parks and Rec. What is that?
Well, we don't want to lose them because apparently they
Right.
give us a pretty
So
good
they're chunk of
Yeah.
change, fine. Let me ask you on the program area. How often do we change programs? What if there's less interest in some programs than others? It's, the post office counts letters in mailboxes regularly. And when they get down below a certain number of letters, poof, the mailbox disappears. So if you haven't noticed, they removed 2 mailboxes across from the post office there. There used to be 3. I went and asked the postmaster, why is that? He explained to me. So, what do we do as to determine what programs we grow or continue with versus those that maybe we say, oh, the interest is so low, let's do something else?
So we would take many things into consideration. One would be the availability of an instructor. For example, we have a number of art classes that we teach, and sometimes we go through those instructors pretty quickly. So if we could not find an instructor, then we would not have a class.
Gotcha.
If participation numbers were lower, then we would not have a class. If it was a space issue, then we would not have a class. We were undertaking a larger renovation and we had to close down the space for a particular period of time, then we would not have a class at that time. We do evaluations with our program participants, and we seek feedback from that. But a lot of it, Mr. Mayor, is based on program participation numbers. When we have our outside instructors, they generally set a minimum amount and a maximum amount. So if we're not getting that, and we're a few under, we might go ahead and offer it to try to stir up some additional interest. And if it doesn't get to the point where it needs to be, then we would move on.
Does your department manage the space of the community center? Is that so?
Yes, sir, we do.
We were there today for the Tri-Cities meeting.
Yes.
And there were 3 different meetings going on.
Yes.
There was the Tri-Cities meeting, there was Arts and Crafts meeting, and then there was
A retirement.
the retirement seminar.
Correct.
Okay. So,
And open gym.
what's the gym? I didn't even get to the gym. I didn't look at the gym. But I kept seeing these signs with, I guess my curiosity is, do we rent those out to some of those folks? Or if they're local, meaning village oriented, do they get to use it? How does that work? How do you manage that? And also, what is the sort of occupancy rate? How often are we doing that?
So that would be in your rentals down here. So for example, there's Parks and Rec rentals for the Arboretum specifically. And again, we can run any query that we need to through Civic Rec. The retirement seminar that you saw today, passed by, that was a rental. The class at the end of the hall, that was one of ours. So we would merely book the space in Civic Rec. The gym would be booked in Civic Rec as well.
Was what I saw today unique, or is that common that you'll have 3 rooms going at once?
It is not uncommon. It depends on the season, for one thing. For example, if it was a partner of ours, if we were hosting anything that was election related, then we would, book that space for them ahead of time. So Monday, the Long Bus was there. So that's a pretty new program that we just entered into with the provider. and they were in the parking lot, and they were set up, and they asked us to extend that and provide that service again.
But we don't want her to start charging us for our Tri-Cities meetings, so.
I understand, I understand. I did wonder about that briefly.
But that's another reason why we count the usage of facilities
for that.
and participants,
Yeah.
because whether it's a rental or not, or paid rental, doesn't necessarily reflect the actual usage that's going on.
Let me jump to the harness track for a question.
Sure.
15 grooms quarters. Are they all functioning now, and do we use them all? How's that working?
So that's a great question. So Steve and Marie put together a new, I think they just call it a barn sheet barn inventory. I'm welcome to pass these around. There's just a couple, of course, there's one for each particular barn. But each one of these sheets will indicate the number of the barn, the stalls that are available, the grooms quarters that are available, the amenities that are in there. So that's going to be wash basin, places to store feed and hay for our renters. We just completed
Well, so with them number 23 of 22 there,
22 is, I think it says,
Yes.
there's training season.
training. season.
So when we're out of training season, people who rent them for dressage shows, their need for space is a little bit different. So it's a little bit different for training season. So one is in season, one is out of season.
Thank you.
And we do have a couple, 11, 12 has been completed, and then we have another one that is undergoing renovations as well for grooms quarters.
Okay, so we need to, there's a couple more left to.
Yes, you'll see those next year, and then example for next year, you'll also see the completion of the restroom facility as well.
Yes. Okay, I had another question, well, more of a comment. No, I was impressed because I had never realized that we held the 80th Pinehurst Junior Tennis Classic with the resort. It was a joint event.
Correct, yes, sir.
And we've been doing this for 80 years.
80 years.
How many people participated in that?
I think Judith had that on her sheet.
I mean, that's a long time, you know?
You're probably a little too old to join the junior.
I
tennis
understand.
club,
Oh, 80.
Over 80 participants.
Okay. Well, that's quite a,
Texas, Florida, Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina.
all right. That's quite an accomplishment. I'll mention that.
I can send, I was back to the grooms quarters. I can send you some pictures of those if you would like. So in some of our recent marketing for the harness track, we included pictures of the new grooms quarters.
I think that'd be nice to share with the council, just to get a
Absolutely.
visual of what we're spending our money on, and it's a good cause. I think the harness track is a big asset to this community. It's both historical, it's functional too, for a lot of different things we do here. And we found out it's desirable by some people who don't live here to change it from its current operating procedures and function, and we sure don't want to see that happen. Let's see, no, I don't have any other questions. If you could follow up with those items, I don't, does anybody else have any questions while we have the head of Parks and Rec here? This is the chance.
Oh, I just have one question. These numbers are really impressive. And it makes me wonder what are you focusing on to grow? Are you at capacity? Where do you go from here?
That's a really good question. We are very close to being at capacity. I think probably one of the things, maybe 3 years, 4 years from now, that it would be time to start talking about, do we want to expand indoor space? That would be probably 10 years on the horizon, I would say. But there's always a competitive need for the spaces that we have, whether it's inside or outside. Inside is always more desirable, of course. So,
In theory, the design of the building was designed to be expanded.
that is correct. Actually, there is a conceptual design that's in my office to go out that way towards the water tower. If I could leave you with a couple other little things that we have
Please
decided to do, or doing. So you'll still see the activity guide, but to become a little bit more cost effective. We have decided to cut back on the number of guides that we published, because there were a lot that were left over, and we've gone to the postcard. So we're saving about $2,100 per publication, and then we'll monitor that and see if those are being picked up and those are being utilized as well.
And Angie, those got mailed to every house, is that correct? The postcard?
So this one will go out in the summer. It'll be mailed to all
I
the
received that.
household. Yeah.
I received
Because it
that.
has a lot of summer camp information. in
Yeah,
there.
not the postcard though.
But these go to the schools, and then there are various locations. They're here in the lobby as well.
One ended up at my house, so.
Okay.
You took one home.
What is the postcard, what kind of information does it convey?
QR code.
Same thing that's in here,
Oh,
sir.
just the QR code.
It's condensed, so and we'll have people who come in and just scan the QR code and don't even take
Right.
the little postcard. So it's the way the world is conducting.
I'm assuming we have the premier Parks and Recreation Department in Moore County.
I believe we do.
That was a softball question. You came in with that video. I'm serving it up for
And I
you.
know I touched on this just a little bit last year, and I won't take up too much more of your time, but I know I talked a little bit last year about accreditation, a CAPR accreditation. And so what I have done is had a series of conversations with my staff. I don't want to put them in a situation where it's groupthink. I don't want you to believe in something because the rest of the group does, or I believe in it. So we have done that. I've had a series of individual meetings. We have done a Zoom meeting with a representative from a CAPR specialist with the National Recreation and Park Association, and we're very close to making a decision on that, and we're pretty much there. We would not submit our application until January of 27. They're in the process of moving some of their standards around. It is a 2-year process. If we apply in January of 27, we will be done before we do the US Open again in 2029 in June.
What does that give us?
So it's best practice standards. It's the same reason we would have police or fire that would be accredited
Right.
as well.
And then what?
So it involves many components. So
No,
for,
but I mean, what is that, is it worth the effort, is where I'm going?
yes, it is.
For what reason?
It's worth the effort because it brings the community more into your decision-making process, and we
Okay.
know more what their needs are and the services are that they want.
All right, well,
Well, I just think then to make sure that the other department chiefs know that the music cost has been thrown down. I mean, up their game a little bit here.
please do follow up with the few questions we had.
Absolutely.
I think that'll be interesting, and thanks for your hard work on this. And,
Thank you.
like I said, I walked in that community center today, and it was unbelievable. It was a bazaar of people in different offices there. And I thought, wow, this is really great.
Well, come see us anytime. I would extend an invitation to come the final Thursday in summer during summer camp. There is a long-standing tradition where the campers play staff in a game of dodgeball. And they all look forward to it, so.
Are you happy with the artificial fields?
Yes, we are, and we've had the opportunity to meet some of our partners' needs when there was rain,
Yeah.
and they were able to transition over and use some of those fields as well.
Yeah,
There's a couple
great.
schools involved in that.
And they look good too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Thanks so much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you both.
Great, okay.
Thank you.
All right. Under regular business, item C, report on the update to the Pinehurst Development Ordinance. So, Doug, how would you like to arrange this?
So we'll invite Alex and Cindy to come up. Alex, do you mind rolling in another chair so you have somewhere to sit as well? So,
doesn't mind having a neighbor.
Yeah.
look at you, thank
so I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but while Cindy and Alex are getting settled, we have the presentation that's prepared for you tonight. That'll go up on the website either tonight or early tomorrow morning. The full draft of the PDO will be submitted, will be also put on the website, and we are working out the final details on the comparative document. So people that don't read PDOs every day or UDOs every day will have some way to compare, like, what did you actually do, what did you change? And we hope that answers a lot of questions for people.
And some of the slides in the presentation today will
We have to do that as well.
begin to get.
So where do we find it on the website?
That is a good question,
So before walking in here, it had not yet been posted. So we hope, as Doug mentioned, to have that there. It's in the appropriate person's hands who can do that. It's not me, surprise. And we've got a lot more material too that has recently been posted. All the community input meeting material has been posted. And I'll work with Kristen a little bit about, I think, some formatting and layout, which again, I admit is not my bailiwick, but I think we can kind of highlight or show, the community input meeting, highlight the draft document, then we have sort of the upcoming important events still today. But this is, if you want to navigate where to.
Yeah, so this is how I do it. So there's other ways to do it, but if you go to the hot topics, PDO update is one of those listed. So you can click on there. So far, we have all the focus group meetings that we've had, the presentation, and the agendas have been posted for those. And tomorrow, we hope to have this a little more exciting and have all those documents posted here as well. So
There's a lot more material, obviously, that's been posted. And there's we got the draft document that's ready now to be posted. That's substantial. And then, 4 different documents from the community input meeting, which we can also post the comment summary that Cindy and her team have now been able to put together, going through all the comment cards that we received from that community input meeting, where we had 101 attendees. That does not include members of staff, the consultant, or focus group members. So it was very well attended.
great. With that, Cindy, we'll turn it over to you.
Yeah.
I'll hand you this.
Yeah,
and you can.
let me click.
So it's a PDF, so you're gonna have to scroll
Oh,
to get to the next slide.
All right. I've got, I don't know, 30 slides or so. We'll go through this. Some of this, for those of y'all that were at the meeting last week, you will have seen some of these slides, but I thought it was important for some of the other council members that have not been there to see the everything that we've talked about. But first of all, I just kind of wanted to revisit how we got to tonight. We've been working with staff and the focus group really since the beginning of the year to put this together, and the culmination is this 401-page document that we have finalized for the first draft that will be posted. We've met with a really engaged focus group 7 times over the course of the project. Spent every other Wednesday morning, I believe, working with staff, going through different topics. So, today we are in task 4. We had our community meeting last week. Like Alex mentioned, 101 attendees. We had 19 people submit comments, which we have cataloged, and those we posted on the website as well. The PDO was submitted to the Village today for posting, and tonight's our council update presentation. The next task to work through is the adoption draft, our public notice period, planning board review and recommendation, which we do have a meeting next Thursday night, I believe. Is that correct? For planning board, I think we're scheduled for an October 30th right now council meeting, not for adoption, of course, not saying that, but just another council review meeting, and then going through our hearings and final deliverables. So it's a lot of work to get through and fully update a PDO, and I just want to thank staff and our focus group because it has been a big lift for them to go through and work with us on all of these different topics. Why was the update needed? Implement the vision from the recently approved small area plans, remove a lot of inconsistencies, update standards, make sure that you're compliant with the legislature and general statutes, really worked to focus on making it a much more graphically intensive document, have lots of illustrations. Our design team created an entire graphics package just for the Village of Pinehurst that you'll see in the document. The primary goals, again, was just updating development design standards, modernizing, streamlining, clarifying different levels of processes, helping improve enforcement so that we have some clear objective standards, and as best as we could remove some subjectivity. As I mentioned, the focus group, we gave them a challenge in January when they decided to join us, that we really wanted them to be ambassadors for this project. And I think that really is one of the keys to success for our meeting last week, is that we asked all of the focus group members to reach out to their constituents, reach out to their neighbors, reach out to their coworkers and let them know about this. And I do have to say that this was one of the best attended community meetings that we've ever facilitated for a UDO. You always get lots of people that want to come to community meetings for comprehensive plans and small area plans, because that's something that people can really wrap their head around. An ordinance update is a lot more technical, so I was really pleased to see the number of people that participated last week.
And the engagement that they have with the staff and the consultants, the questions, you know, some of the terminology, and be able to kind of work through some of those barriers with folks, so you can actually have a face-to-face conversation with them on the topics, is immensely helpful.
There's a lot of great small conversations at all the different stations, so I really appreciate the engagement. Again, this was a board that was at our meeting last week. Just kind of like summary of the recommended changes that as we've worked through the focus group and staff, updating some application processes to be consistent with statute, simplifying, revising sections related to procedures. We did at our last focus group meeting make a minor, I'll say minor, change to our minor major subdivision and minor major site plan thresholds. We're increasing minor from 3 to 5. And then the major site plan thresholds from 2 acres to 3 acres. And everyone.
Can you go over those once more?
Sure, minor goes from 3 to 5 lots.
What does that mean, 3 to 5?
Lots.
Lots, okay.
And I think there's a slide later on in the presentation that we might can highlight a little bit more.
And then just for the minor major site plan thresholds, 2 acres to 3 acres. And I feel like we had and Barb and Jack, if you wanted to weigh in also, I felt like we had great consensus on that as part of the focus group members, that that was something that was reasonable to do as part of the update. We are going to have a new neighborhood meeting requirement for projects within the village to really help let the citizenry understand what types of projects are being proposed within the community, and so we will provide some more detailed information on that also. Created a whole new chapter related to our form-based districts. Now there's specific information related to the use table, dimensional requirements, architectural requirements, standards, much easier now instead of having to rely on the 2 small area plans or trying to figure out what is appropriate. All of the information is now housed within the new PDO.
A standalone chapter now.
Updated the watershed protection overlay district to be consistent with some state and county
What
requirements.
did that involve? What was the updated, what did we do there?
For the watershed?
Yes.
So our watershed regulations are still in the 90s, 1990s for those who.
Those are the state ones.
Correct, right. That's another sort of delegated authority that the state's passed down since the early 90s when those rules were in place. So we have taken, the state provides a model ordinance. I believe the latest date on that is like 2020, 2021. Skinnied up a little bit to where a lot of the engineering speak in that model ordinance will be reflected in our engineering standards and not in the actual zoning document itself. But some of the dimensional criteria was clarified from just a base unit per acre or, you know, the 40,000 square foot lots if you're talking about single family residential use. And the different terminology and how to meet low intense projects and high intense projects.
When you say overlay, is that all of Pinehurst?
Just where we do have a watershed protection district, which is mapped by the state.
Okay.
So we use an overlay as our tool to enact those regulations, which is a substantial part of our jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you.
We've also recommended a new highway corridor overlay district, still working with the focus group and staff to finalize that, but there is some draft language in the document. Revised some of the landscape and buffer yard standards. We included a new approved tree species list, additional architectural design standards, updated some parking requirements, and lots of new graphics tables and improved formatting of the chapters.
Let me go to the highway corridor overlay district. I may have heard earlier that there was a discussion that's been going on with Moore County commissioners on this topic for Moore County. What does this do here for Pinehurst?
So,
Comprehensive.
as most of us know, but I think it's also important to have some context, so Dan's a little more comfortable as he hears us talking about implementing a new district here potentially. So a lot of us are familiar with, the new law that all local jurisdictions have related to down zoning now, and that new definition. So what we've done, as Jack just kind of alluded to, we used to have a highway corridor overlay. As these plans evolved and have been amended through the years, it was removed with some carryover additional landscaping standards in some very specific areas. So with the 2019 comprehensive plan, one of the implementation strategies was to consider developing another highway corridor overlay. So we decided, and it's been an initiative action plan or at least an OFI for 5 years, I think, maybe. So we lumped it into what became the IAP for the Pinehurst Development Ordinance update. So what we've done is Kimley Horn has provided a recommendation on what a new highway corridor overlay could look like. Right now, it's just going to kind of be a what we've termed like a paper overlay district, where it's not mapped, it's not implemented, it's not a requirement. I earlier recommended, because of those challenges that we faced, to not include it into the new draft PDO. But as of our last focus group meeting, the recommendation was to put it back in place, as it could be an incentive for someone who maybe wants to come with a development proposal that might be considered to be a highway corridor, and they could impose additional standards. And typically what these additional standards are, they're increased landscape, increased buffering, increased setbacks, maybe a restriction in the range of uses that would be permitted in that area, and added protection on like exterior lighting.
So that sounds like a significant.
It's been a goal for 6 years, so this is pretty, we just can't implement it ourselves.
I understand, that's because of that law that was adopted that
Correct.
we and all the municipalities in Moore County have been advocating for it to be corrected.
An ideal situation would be able to have that and be able to actually go through the exercise where we map it, where should these highway corridors be, and if they're different type of corridors.
Thank you.
Again, just following up on the neighborhood meetings be required for rezonings, conditional zoning, major site plans, major subdivisions, and then we also have a clause there that any projects that would be deemed to be of significant community impact, so.
I think this is fabulous that they put this in this form, because transparency is kind of the name of the game in Pinehurst, always has been, and this just adds one more level of transparency. I think
In a well put together brochure, so not only will it be a submittal requirement for any of those applications, but we're actually, thanks to Cindy and her group, we actually have a handout we can give to folks who are considering any of these type of development applications. It's a guidebook, if you will, too.
Yeah, I think this will be the most beneficial part of the whole update process, so.
I think you received some public comment earlier today about certain applications, right? If it were to be a threshold like that, that would require that upfront before our department can accept a full submittal.
I think this would be a good point to focus on in the next neighborhood advisory committee.
Yeah.
Because
It's very specific too, and there is a requirement that they have to document what went on.
Well, actually, I think the way, and Cindy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the development community was kind of on board with this too, because finally we have a guidebook.
Right, they are, and it's not anything that the other communities aren't already requiring. Most of the developers are used to having to do these types of meetings. And so for us to provide a playbook, it kind of tells them, hey, this is the expectation. You need to do this before you submit. These are kind of the types of questions. These are the timeframes, all of that. It makes it very easy for them to understand what the requirement is. And then, using transparency, it really is transparent for the community. They understand before anything is even filed what the project's going to be. So, and it also hopefully will establish a little bit of goodwill between the development team and the community as well.
Very important.
So I'm really excited that this was something that the focus group decided is important. So just quickly kind of going over some of our boards that we had at the meeting. Obviously we spent a lot of time working on the sign chapter, making sure that everything that Pinehurst is doing is legal, but also spending it a lot of time so that it's a lot easier to understand. So we have a lot of great tables that explain where the different types of signs are permitted in the village. As I said, we created a whole new graphics package for signage for the village, and now each type of sign has, and the colors aren't fabulous on the screen, but it looks much more Pinehurst colors in the document. Each type of sign has one page that's dedicated to it. So now if someone wants to do a wall sign, they know exactly where to go with the PDO. It'll show a graphic. It'll say what districts it's allowed, what are the height, what are the colors, all the different requirements. So it makes it a lot easier for the public to understand and staff to be able to review and approve permits. Again, some more of the graphics that we put together detailing the different types of signage and where it would be allowed. The landscape regulations, again, taking lots and lots of text, putting them into tables so that's easier for staff and the public to understand. Not lots of wholesale changes to landscape regulations, it's really more clarification and making it easier for people to, one, find it in the ordinance and to be able to understand it. Created whole other graphics related to, sometimes the buffer is a difficult thing for people to understand. Having this graphic really helps people understand the types of trees that would be required, the types of shrubs that would be required, the numbers, what that would physically look like. And then thinking about the different types of buffers between properties, there's tables now to better explain that. We mentioned the form-based district, taking the information from the two small area plans, and now there's a whole dedicated chapter within the PDO related to those. For the Village Place, this is just a snip of what the use table looks like. No changes to anything in the use table, just now it's all in one place and easier to understand for the basic sub-districts what types of uses are allowed and what the approval process would be for something to be reviewed and approved in that district. Same with the Pinehurst South. So here, now we're getting into kind of the nuts and bolts. The existing PDO has 10 chapters, and it was, for people that spoke with me at the meeting the other night, I was using the breadcrumb analogy. I felt like your current PDO now, there's just so much stuff that was jammed into these chapters. It was really difficult to understand. You would have to kind of use your breadcrumbs to kind of figure out how you're going to get through it to figure out what you needed to do. So we spent a lot of time with staff remapping the document. So now, if you are looking for something related to form-based districts, you go to Chapter 7. If you have a question related to landscaping, you have to go to Chapter 8. Fences and walls and screening, Chapter 10. So it, to me, is a lot more intuitive and it's a lot easier to understand. And when you have a chance to look at the document, just the improvements to the table of contents alone, I think is going to make a big difference. So I'm very, excited and interested to hear comments related to that. So this is kind of a preview of the 20-page document that Doug referenced earlier. What we wanted to do quickly tonight, obviously because some of you have not seen the full document, is just kind of basically do a high-level overview of what was in the current PDO, what's the draft PDO, and then just kind of some quick nuggets of the effect. Chapter 1 is our general provisions and rules. Really what we wanted to make sure for this one is that we were making sure that we are compliant with the general statutes. We did a little bit of changes to the severability clause to help strengthen defensibility. It's really functionally similar. Not a lot of changes, just provides a stronger legal foundation, clear policy direction. So I think when you go to look at it, you're going to notice there's not a lot of changes in this chapter. It's just better organized. Chapter 2 related to nonconformities. There was, broad discussion about it. We really spent a little bit of time looking at this for expanded enforcement, a little more clarity into the different types of nonconformities, use, structure, and lot, some additional information on maintenance, time limits, abandonment timelines, things like that. Transitional provisions were modernized, and we made sure to update all the cross-references. For decision-making bodies, again, just clarifying there weren't any changes to the decision-making bodies. It's just more clarification. Really added some information on conflict of interest as well. Consistency statements talking about what the different types of bodies will have the approval authority for. And again, we've created a matrix. Nothing was changed throughout that, just more clarification. Clear roles, improvement of defensibility, increasing transparency was really the goal.
A question on the conflict of interest. Will those match up to the conflict of interest provisions that members of the Sand Hills Metropolitan Planning Organization have to go through?
They're about 160D. Yeah, these are specific to the rules or conflicts of interest for the governing board and the advisory boards that have decision-making authority under them.
Yeah, the Sand Hills MPO is much different, much more involved. Like you have to share every every
Right,
stock
you go onto the website with the state.
Yeah.
Will you be doing that here or not? No.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Approvals, variances, administrative appeals. We try to put all of the information related to every type of review process, variances into one area again, so it's a little bit easier, more predictable. As I mentioned, lots of these were scattered across multiple sections, multiple chapters, overlapping responsibilities, so we put everything into one chapter, talked about vested rights in here, provided some clarification of what a minor versus a major modification would be. Everything related to procedures is one chapter. So we simplified it, eliminated conflicts, made sure that, again, we're in compliance with the general statutes, and hopefully having this all in one chapter helps a little bit of predictability. And then again, just clarify the roles of staff and boards.
Remind me what SUPs are.
Special use permit.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, it's alphabet soup when you get to
That's
working
all
on
right.
a PDO or
Once you said what it was, I knew it. I recognized it.
again, and it's carrying out. This chapter has 2 pages. Deadlines and notice procedures were not consistently defined. We made sure that we talked about that, talked about the differences between legislative review, judicial review, administrative review, vested rights and permit decisions. Again, the information on the new neighborhood meeting is housed in chapter 4. The result is a modernized document. We think it's going to help a little bit to minimize some legal risk and improves a little bit more transparency. Enforcement, not a lot of changes in this. Really, it's more reorganization. The enforcement is expanded with some details and explicit penalty types. Just stronger, clear enforcement, and we're hoping that
What are the explicit penalty types?
There's just one.
Oh, the type. It should be type.
So there used to be that, as you see there, under that bullet under the current PDO, where changes with 160D took away the criminal penalty element that you could enforce through zoning enforcement. So it's a monetary enforcement, a fine of $500 a day per violation.
$500 a day, right, yeah, okay.
Can we still do stop work orders?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
That's just not,
Right.
it's different housing. For various reasons, falsifying information, if we, became aware of a permit holder, falsifying information to get a development permit. Obviously, the building code official has authority under there because you kind of have permits housed under two different umbrellas. You have the development permit, which is your zoning regulation. Then you have your building permit, which is subject to the whatever applicable state building code. The development permit is a prerequisite before getting your building permit, so they're kind of tied together. There are certain protections now under statutes for building permits, but usually you have that development permit as an angle at times. But no, we still have authority to issue stop work.
Zoning districts and dimensional standards. Now, this chapter is greatly enhanced with each zoning district has its own designated page that will talk through the different dimensional standards. A little bit of information like we talked about before about the watershed overlay, suggestion of a new, the paper highway corridor overlay. I think the use table is a little bit easier to understand now than it was before, and it's a larger font, if nothing else, that you can read it a little bit better.
And the columns and rows line up, yeah.
More clarification on supplemental use standards, our SRs, temporary uses. A lot of the conditions were just buried in footnotes, hard to understand, so we spent a lot of time really restructuring this. Again, hope the goal is greater clarity and usability for everyone that utilizes the document. The form-based districts, and we mentioned before, a whole chapter now related to this. We have dimensional requirements, makes it easier for them to be understood and to be applied. Maps and use tables are now included for the two districts. We have some building form standards that we didn't really have before, so I think that's going to make it easier, and we hopefully will have some great development that will come based on those different types of standards.
I think we'll still learn in the future as we go along with it.
And then it gives a modern form-based regulatory framework for these two important areas of the village. Landscapes and buffers, really just lots more graphics, lots more tables in this ordinance. Alex, I can't think that we made many substantive changes to anything in landscaping and buffers.
The main one was the applications, the plant count being tied to a linear footage instead of a square footage of that buffer yard. That was the main change. And, I've heard through various applications for development or for folks who had expectations of how a landscape buffer would function in longevity, that we actually had such a stringent buffer regulation that, number one, there was no incentive to keep mature vegetation because there are regulations on where your understory or your shrubs that you would have to plant would have to be sited in relation to the existing vegetation. They had to be further away from a drip line, so it made it where you couldn't squeeze all the required plantings in. So it actually incentivized the removal of that mature vegetation. And just the ability for that planting stock to flourish and live years after, where now it's almost so constricted that it chokes itself out, so it doesn't meet that ultimate intent. This is something else that we're going to have to get some application with and see as a project matures through the years after the landscaping's been installed, to see if we need to make any tweaks. But it's easier to understand, and again, where buffers and where parking landscaping have to apply, then how you use that math exercise for what's required.
I would say that this is probably the second most important page that the NAC would want to look at. There are a lot of folks who ask these questions about tree preservation, buffer, and backyard landscaping, because it's visual. That's what it is. When they look at something, they say, how is that allowed? Well, okay, either it's allowed or it's not allowed. So I think, again, I'm thinking in terms of our average resident who's not going to drill into the weeds here, no pun intended, but this will be an important part, paged for them. Tree preservation protections existed but were relatively weak. We're strengthening those a bit. Is that a fair word?
We're incentivizing it more.
Incentivizing.
There's been some changes in regulating the removal of trees on private property outside of historic districts.
Right.
But if we can incentivize the use of existing vegetation to meet this requirement, instead of, again, decentivize it by requiring that all this other stuff has to be choked together, or you can't do it, you just can't meet it, the best way to do it is just start from a clean slate.
On the buffer standards, what do you mean by tied to intensity? What does intensity word there mean? Does that mean should be density? What does that mean?
But either one, they're used interchangeably. So intensity, so the chart and how it kind of will work now, instead of just having one basic table, it depends on what the proposed development use is and what it's bordered by. So what the adjacent use. So if you say you have a multifamily development next to a single family development, you have say a class 2, where if you have a more intense type development, such as a high volume retail next to, say, a multifamily type use, then you have to provide a more intense landscape buffer.
I'll just make one observation about that. I've never seen the words intensity and density used interchangeably. I've only heard people talk about density when they talk about around here housing or development. Now, I'm an outlier, could be, but
I concur with that. I mean,
I haven't either. Okay, I've heard people that, you know, you go high density or low density. What's going to be going here? So that's why the word intensity caught my eye. Haven't seen it.
Typically, density is used for residential units.
Okay.
The intensity is used for the non-residential, because you're talking about the range of uses that are allowed in that district.
Could be your contribution to it.
It could be. I mean,
We can.
you guys have gone through all this. These are first impressions, which you'll get from a lot of citizens. So go ahead.
Not a problem, we can change that, that's not a
But-
problem at all.
I mean, that's just a word we're using to describe what we did, so it's,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's even written in there like that.
But it's not in the document like that, but it's just
Oh,
more of a
okay, all right. Well, I
description.
didn't. I'm trying to be a good student here. I'm reading every word.
But we'll never forget it now, right?
No way, I won't.
Back to like the principle of it all though, it makes a lot of sense if you're having a office professional next to an office professional, yeah, you don't need as much buffer as if it's a resident versus the hospital.
And as we know, our built environment that we have, there are a lot of conflicting land uses next to each other, potentially.
Potential.
And then, I'm sorry, I keep scrolling here, but just going back to that table, you know, there are graphics for each of those as well.
Oh, yeah,
There's
good
tables
point.
for each of them, so that you'll be able to visually see what the requirements would be between those two different types of,
So tell me what that long leaf pine trees per 100 feet, you can have 2. Is that what it's saying to me?
You have to
It's a
have.
you have to have.
You have to
It's the
have
minimum.
It's a minimum, yep.
Okay. Whereas large shrubs, you have to have 10.
And this is, so class 1, so this is the least
Intense.
intense. Least dense.
Gotcha. Okay,
Let's see.
that's helpful.
I can pull this real quick. Let's see. So just for, while we're talking, I can just talk through it here. So like if you go to a class 2, it goes up to 3 longleaf pine trees, and you have 15 large shrubs
Per 100 feet.
per 100, correct. And then if you go to a class 3, it's 4 longleaf pine trees and 20 shrubs. And then the most, say dense of, would be the class 4, which would require 4 longleaf pine trees, and then also still 20 large shrubs, because it'd be hard to fit any more than that. And we've spent a lot of time with our landscape architects on our team really vetting these to make sure that we think they're reasonable for this type of situation.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And I do appreciate the intensity versus density comments down with this. Throw it out there. So,
All right, let's see. Keep going.
Not a big deal.
Making everyone sick here as I'm scrolling through here, so apologies. And then soil erosion, new chapter in this it's a small chapter, but it does talk about doing soil erosion control earlier in the site plan process. And this is something we'll still be working through, especially as part of the MSSD update that will be coming once we finish the PDO update.
How does this integrate with the DEQ folks?
So what we're gonna do, so it really depends on the type of application, right? So there are different application types. What we have a lot of, what we've heard from the bulk of our concerns, aside from a 500+ year storm event,
Right.
which again, it seems that we're having more recurring, larger impact events. So the concerns that we hear most times are we have these infill lots, sort of these lots that have been passed over for years and years and years because they're challengeable to build on. There's grade considerations. And now that everything else has been built around them, everything's kind of heading their way. So it's infill lots, so they have development rights, especially for single-family residential. They have more development rights than just about any other type of development. So we have issues when the site's under construction. And the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality is the jurisdiction with authority over the matter, and they will remain such until which point in time anything changes. I think there was a report on that earlier today. Or unless the village becomes a delegated authority by the state. So we're going to make that with our single-family submittals that they acknowledge on their application that this is likely required and you need to speak with DEQ. So we can get that acknowledgement up front from them. Again, DEQ will still be the authority.
They are.
Yep. Now, for any of what we have recommended is for our land disturbing permit that we have. So this is an application type where we don't have an application for a new single family, or if you're doing a non-residential, a site plan or a subdivision, we don't have some permit application under review and accepted by our department for development in our jurisdiction. But you want to come in and just do land disturbing activity. You want to remove trees, you want to do grading, you want to see what your lot looks like. With that type of approval, there are some landscape standards you've got to prove to us you meet, and we are requiring that you get a concurrence from DEQ up front before we can issue that, because you haven't thought through the development of that site. You're just kind of going in and doing some mass grading, and so we want to make sure we get some sort of concurrence from them.
Yeah. But overall, we are trying to improve processes so that DEQ is aware of what's going on here, and so that not mistakes, but like they're aware of construction that's going on here, and so they can manage that. On a separate note, when we talked about stormwater for an hour earlier today, it was brought up that Pinehurst is likely going to be an MS4 community in the future, which means that we will have to take on really the regulation of stormwater ourselves, and it won't be managed by DEQ. So if that happens, we'll have much more control, but we'll also have much more responsibility and expense to manage all that.
Fences, walls, and screening. Again, really it's clarity, providing material clarity, more specifics related to height, better organization, making sure that anything related to fences, walls, column standards are all in one chapter. Just more modernized and hopefully a little bit less ambiguity and taking out some of the subjectivity. Parking, roadway, and access. Just kind of modernized the chapter. We added some things related to golf cart parking that wasn't in there before, so there's some standards related to that, some information related to bicycle parking requirements, made very minimal changes based on conversations with the focus group on some of the parking ratios. Yeah, I mean, we're not talking massive changes, like it might have gone from 1 per 250 to 1 per 300 square feet, things that we just felt like some of the uses might needed a little bit more parking or a little less parking. Revised how we would calculate things for restaurants so that it's a little bit easier for staff to understand as well as the applicant. We provided some additional information on perhaps if you wanted to think about shared parking or satellite parking, or maybe some ways that there could be some reduced parking scenarios based on the different types of uses. So really just kind of modernize this.
How does it reduce unnecessary impervious surfaces?
Less parking lots.
Yeah. So
That's basically it.
Less or more, or less parking spaces.
right? So 20 years ago, the concern was that there weren't going to be enough parking spaces. And now we're looking at seas of parking lots, like, why do we require so much? So they modernized that and increased it, like Cindy said, from 250 to 300.
Most communities actually have a cap now.
A cap on parking.
Yes, they have a minimum and a maximum. To
Interesting.
help it. And if, I mean, there was legislation introduced this past session
Oh, yeah.
that took away, for requiring. a minimum,
Parking,
so.
the parking bill. It's,
So the trend has become more, Doug mentioned, it's like, I'll pick on Walmart, for example. Walmart has to park for, the Black Friday shopping event. Well, that landscape's completely changed, shopping and online retail. But you go by the other 364 days of the year, and all you see is a wave of asphalt and lighting.
Yeah, really.
I think we also talked a little bit about EV, that's definitely a trend, and so talked with the focus group about that, but we did not do a wholesale change for EV in this PDO update.
Good.
Lighting standards, again, the lighting rules were scattered throughout, the ordinance, the regulations were outdated. We spent some time kind of adopting some, or proposing some dark sky standards. Hopefully it's a little bit easier now to administer and enforce using just current language and regulations. Talk a lot about foot candles, the height appropriateness of poles, cutoff standards. Again, lots of graphics so that it's an easier document to understand. Sign standards, if I had to say, I would say we probably made the most changes to this chapter than any other chapter in the PDO. Before, again, it was really one long section, lots of tables and cross-references that were difficult, I think, for staff to understand and for the public to understand. So we reorganized it, really focused on the aesthetics, made sure that there's a defined color palette, objective standards, and again, like I mentioned before, I showed you that graphic. Each permitted sign within the village has its own page now that really talks about where they're allowed, the color palette, height, all of those things, so it's a much easier thing to be able to enforce and understand in the village. Lot and subdivision standards, new chapter that talks about really everything related to lots, single family, subdivision. This is where we got into talking about the changes, the minor changes that we've made to the thresholds between minor and major subdivisions and minor and major site plans. Just really more trying to take out some of the subjectivity and provide a little bit more standards and updates on procedural.
On your last bullet under draft,
Mm-hmm.
the new chapter expands subdivision standards to emphasize connectivity, get that multimodal. What is open space integration?
So that is, I'm glad you brought that up. That is a topic that we had at our last focus group meeting, and in the current PDO, there's requirements for minimum amount of open space throughout different zoning districts and what would be required in subdivisions. And the focus group has asked us, kind of as the next step after we have this draft posted, to really spend a little bit of time going through open space and talking about usable open space, active open space, what should be open space within the village, what should be required in new subdivisions. So I see that probably as our next task with staff and with our focus group to really kind of better delineate that. Did I kind of capture that, Jack?
Yeah, better define it.
That's fair enough. That's the
Yeah.
way to put it.
What were the two words you used? Usable and something else?
Passive.
Passive and.
Yeah, and what does that mean in your world, definition?
So I think if you think of it, like right now, what we have is just a percentage. 15% of your development, Mr. Developer, has to be set aside for open space. Okay, well, there's this forested area over here, there's these wetlands here, and I'm just gonna bunch all that together. There's your 15%, and it just kind of stays like, it's not really providing much benefit to the subdivision or to the neighborhood, right? But if you make it where it's integrated as part of, there's walking paths, there's, community-owned area where there's some sort of, maybe a recreational component, maybe you do utilize some of those wetlands, right? Because Sometimes you can use wetlands for certain type of features, right?
Right.
You actually provide some sort of benefit, so that's what we gotta flesh out is,
Okay, so that's something you're working on.
don't use your stormwater basin and say that's part of my open space. We actually do have an exclusion for that now, but that's just one example. You can't just lump a bunch of area together and say, there's my open space, I met your requirement.
I see.
Make it work.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And again, another page related to this,
Oh, yeah.
which I think we got into the open space here. So, and then detailing again, you know, right now, minor subdivision was up to 3 lots without right-of-way dedication. Minor subdivision now up to 5 lots without right-of-way dedication. The minor site plan, currently development under 2 acres, is now development under 3 acres. So that was really the substantive change related to minor, major subdivisions and site plans. And then the last I'm sorry.
Yeah, a couple of questions there.
Mm-hmm.
What is pedestrian cut-throughs? How do you define those? Is that like a path where kids take a shortcut on their bike or whatever?
Yeah,
Basically, yeah.
basically.
Okay. I think you're back with open space. Above that, utilities are encouraged underground. Why wouldn't we require them?
There's some limitations to what we can fully require there with utilities. So we're just trying to make sure we stay compliant.
Okay, well, if you can, the lawyers can revisit it or something, I think that is, as we're here, it's 2025, I just feel that we ought to, that's a reasonable requirement on people who are developing or people who are modernizing, rather than they can say, well, we may not.
I think developers recognize that it makes a more attractive community.
Oh,
so
easily.
They put the utilities
Yeah.
underground, so they're not against this.
Maintenance is better. A lot of the utility, depending on the utility provider, they're going to push for it too. But it depends on the application type. Like for a new subdivision, we feel pretty strongly that
Yes.
we're within our bounds there, right?
I got you.
There are limitations, however, in certain cases or certain areas where it might not make sense.
Okay, well, just take a look at that. I'm encouraged is a, moderate word. I feel that sometimes we may have situations where the builders or developers are looking, how do I save a little more money here? Well, you're encouraged to do this. Okay.
Well, it appears like the free market's already moving towards that.
I do. I think this
Free
stage
market's
of
pretty
life.
powerful. So.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, I think everyone agrees underground's better.
yeah.
So to the extent we are able to, we'll put it in there.
That's great. Thank you.
Requiring it.
And the last chapter, definitions. And this was a topic of our last focus group meeting, and we went through and really working to modernize them. We provided, 15 or 20 alternate definitions to some of the words. We're working with staff and the focus group on that, making sure that the uses are appropriately defined so that there's less need for interpretations, which is really the goal. So this is the last one that we're working through again with staff and the focus group. That's a whole chapter. So I've talked a lot. Sorry about that. It was a lot to get
No,
through.
that's very helpful.
But just kind of finishing up where we are. Focus group meetings, number 7 was last week. We had that in the morning before our community meeting. The draft PDO has been delivered to the village and either posted tonight or tomorrow morning, like Doug mentioned. Today is our update to village council. We have a planning and zoning board meeting on the 2nd, and I believe the 30th is the next date that we are scheduled at this point.
Oh, yeah, we moved it to 30th, right?
Before council.
I had one other question, the changing landscape with what Raleigh does to municipalities and in the area of
There was an
PDO.
update today.
Yeah. How do we, and you may not be the people who exactly answer this, maybe there's someone else in the room who might, how do we build in the legal defensibility aspects of this? Thoughts? comments? What are other communities doing now with this crazy roadmap we have to operate under?
So right now, what we've proposed is compliant with the current general statutes.
Okay,
And I'll use the word current.
Gotcha.
As of today, there was another bill that seems to have gotten kind of speedy going through, and so we're waiting to see about that. If it ends up being voted on in this portion of the session, and minor changes related to vested rights and a few other things that if it happens while we're in the midst of this update, obviously we will make these amendments, but again, every other community is in the same boat, and I'll be attending a conference next month also with the NCAPA. We'll have a huge legislative review too, so if anything else has popped up, make sure that Alex is aware of that as we're going through this process, and then you'll just have to make amendments, unfortunately, as you go through to keep things compliant with the general statutes and the kind of
Okay.
craziness that's going on.
If you've got anything you can send around about this new bill,
Oh, yeah, I do.
I'd appreciate just,
Sure,
what
Alex-
is this new thing?
Yeah, Alex and I were chatting about it today, and we'll follow with that, and we'll highlight the sections. Again, it's another one of these like omnibus bills where there's a ton of stuff in there, and there's probably 5 or 6 things that would be relevant to a PDO update.
All right.
So one thing in specific, the down zoning, so Cindy had actually included the exact language that, kind of is the new law
Yes.
in the PDO. We actually scaled it back at our focus group meeting to refer to the state law. So if the state law changes on that specific item, we don't necessarily have to go change
Go
it.
back to.
Because that one is like in flux and we're,
Right.
fingers crossed it might change in this session.
Yeah.
It's not, unfortunately, not addressed in this bill that we were talking
No,
about
we have to
today,
address
but, we'll see what happens.
So between now and October 2nd, there will be, now that this is posted on the website, there are going to be people who are going to be offering suggestions, changes, etc. How will those be handled in terms of posting on the draft or?
Sure. Well, what we want to do, and I think I want to work with Kristen tomorrow too to figure out how we do this. Like Alex's email will be there, my email will be there.
It's kind of one of the first things you see when you go to that website.
Yeah, is our contact information, because what we want to do is we're going to use the document that we started with the comments from the community meeting, and so that any other comment that we receive from council, citizens, whomever, we will have on there so that we keep a record of things that have come up with comments, questions, concerns, and then we will vet those with staff as we go through and then have kind of a living history of those comments and how they were addressed or perhaps maybe not addressed in the update.
We'll accommodate as much as we can. Obviously, there are going to be some items that we just can't address, or those that we will have to present, as it comes to adoption time. Hey, I think this might make sense here or there, what is your input, and we can make that change. Now that we actually have we got a draft cover-to-cover document, it's going to be easier now, because you're talking like 9 or 10 chapters to 15 now. Like things just don't translate all that well. But now that we have, a substantial document, it'll be clearer to see what fine tuning, because that's where we're at now. We've done the heavy lifting. Now it's just, a little bit of fine tuning of the mechanics of the document.
I understand we increased the chapters, make them more user-friendly. Did we increase the total number of pages in the document? Or is it relatively the same?
What was the number
Took the road too
currently?
many.
Yeah,
That I agree with, probably.
we're at 401.
Yeah.
But you can read it now. It's not teeny tiny font.
Oh, it's
That's
the font's
part of,
bigger.
And lots of pictures.
lots of pictures.
Pictures,
lots of
fonts,
color,
all right.
Right, but it's a little heftier.
Okay, but there's 2 very logical explanations. The document's a little bigger. You can read it now. We have some drawings and tables that are much more functional. So,
Yeah.
Is the focus group going to get a printed copy?
If you want one.
Can I sign up for a printed?
Yes, you definitely can.
Rather than go to state,
Make
that too.
spend $300 for having it printed?
Yeah, I'll put them in your boxes tomorrow.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just checking.
Well, one thing.
Box though.
What's that?
It may not fit in the box.
Yes,
Oh,
that's
You put some of his in my box, because I don't want to print it
You-
out.
you don't want it-
Yeah, I want to do this right.
I'll do it online.
All right, one thing, we may need another focus group meeting to, finalize everything,
Sure,
so.
that's okay.
I think what might work well is we have our planning and zoning board public hearing, and, public can come and say what their comments are. We might get additional feedback from that, and we had some from the community meeting last week.
And for the
Also-
planning and zoning board members, based on what recommendation they might put together.
Sure.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so maybe mid-October, we have another, hopefully that's the last one. We get, hopefully everything mostly buttoned up, have the public hearing on the 30th. Don't need to adopt it on the 30th, because there might be additional comments, but you could if you wanted to, but.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be wonderful to adopt it on the 30th if
Yeah.
we get there. I think it might be a bit of a crunch. I mean, I'd love to see it adopted on the 30th,
Uh-huh,
but the trouble is we have to do the announcement of the public hearing and so forth and so on. Although you can have a public hearing on the 30th, and if you still have some revisions you want to make, you can do a continuation
sure.
of the public hearing to the following meeting.
Or you can just defer
And
action.
then the resolution to approve can be at the.
Yeah.
the following.
Yeah, you don't public hearing one meeting and then adopt it the next meeting too.
Right.
Yeah, without another public hearing. if you want.
Yeah, and between those two, there can be some minor changes.
Yep, exactly.
That's right.
And once we have, like Alex was saying, a final document now, come any changes after the 30th, we could easily redline those so everyone knows exactly what changed between
I think it'll work.
that public version and what we.
And maybe, I use that term red line, we use that, so
Yeah.
now if you're talking about 400 pages,
No, you're not gonna.
and we made 4 changes within this 400-page document, we'll put a clear summary there, maybe just take out that chapter
Yeah.
and say, this is where this page of this chapter, and this is what's changed.
Yeah, exactly. I'll go bananas here. Does that make sense? Okay.
Any other questions or comments from
No, it's a
council?
lot of work, and I really
Yeah.
appreciate everything you guys have done. So
Yeah, that was a.
There's been a lot of work that's happened since January, since we first had that kickoff meeting with the focus group.
Very quick.
And Cindy and her team have done a really good job to help us expedite this project. You may recall what that projected timeline was earlier on when we first came to the agreement. And here we are with something that's largely put together. We're actually approaching the finish line for a big major project that we've been trying to get underway and get completed for almost 6 years.
Well, I'm impressed with the turnout you had at the focus group meeting, or community input. And I think of it in terms of as could be a roadmap for future public involvement in discussions of this nature, where how we advertise it and alert people to it. When you can get over 100 people, residents, not
Yeah.
stacking staff, come to a meeting to walk around and learn about this, that's a big step of public involvement in what's going to be an impactful decision on the quality of life in the village of
I
Pinehurst.
absolutely agree. And the people that attended, for the most part, were the people, 100 people, 101 people that actually care, in the community out of that 18,000. There's some skepticism as that type of format with the stations, but to be honest with you, I don't see how you can do a presentation and they can't go on forever with questions and all the rest of that.
Right.
And if they were interested in a particular area, fences, landscaping, form-based, whatever, you could drill into it individually.
And they have another bite at the apple. That's the thing about this. It's not over. No more comments from you folks. They've got a couple of more bites at the apple.
At least
So
two
you-
more, right?
Yeah, so that's a good,
I thought it worked out fine. I was excited that when people came.
Me too.
And they started
And we didn't even have to preserve a lot of food for them to get them there. That was-
Brownies is all.
I know, some cookies and brownies, that's all it takes.
Alex, the planning and zoning board meeting, do we expect, maybe not this level of detail, but another presentation?
No, I think absolutely this level of detail.
Absolutely.
They will receive tomorrow morning as well. I will going to update them on the process as I've had through the schedule, So they have been, I've been communicating to them each step, you know, what the focus group's been doing, what topics or areas of concern or areas of potential major revisions, because again, we're hamstrung by how big a change we could really make. They're aware of what the goals and objectives were. I provided updates the past 2 meetings. I definitely think too, this more in-depth summary that you guys are going to have, I plan to share that with them as well. I want to give them as much tools as necessary. And this group is they're like sponges right now, and they're really soaking it up. So I really look forward to that meeting next week.
And you'll have that presentation before the public hearing, so there will be some information to inform people before they make their comments.
Hope to be posted by the end of the week, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you all very much.
You're very welcome, thanks again. All right, now we go to item D under regular business, the Risk Management Committee Annual Report. And that's you, Carlton, right?
It is.
And can you,
You better have a video.
standard has been set. Can you remind us the membership of the Risk Management Committee?
It is on the first slide.
All right.
The PowerPoint's pulled up for you.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Click on it.
All right, well, thank you for taking time tonight to hear the annual report of the Risk Management Committee. The membership of the committee is me as the risk manager, Angie Cantor, Human Resources Director, Dana Van Nostrand as the Financial Services Director, and we have 2 citizen reps, Bruce Hockman and Greg Young, both of who have an insurance industry background. So they help us to kind of maneuver the intricacies of the insurance world. We're going to talk a little bit about the overview of the committee, what we have done over the last year, and then our main thing tonight is to ask for your approval of our recommendations for the health insurance and dental insurance benefit. So, mission statement of the committee, to serve as a consultant, advisor, and review team for all items related to the village's management of risk, as well as the employee health and safety programs. The committee meets quarterly and more often as needed. We review accidents, injuries of employees. We review those reports and look for ways that we can prevent those from occurring again in the future. We have oversight of the employee activities and wellness committee, the safety committees, and those are primarily managed through human resources. We also review the insurance proposals for property and liability, workers' compensation, and the health and ancillary benefits programs. They also offer us tips and best practices for how we can manage our risk in the best manner possible. So now into the nitty-gritty of it. The health recommendation for medical, vision, and dental. So those policies run on a calendar year basis. And health, medical, vision, and dental make up about 99% of the overall benefits program for health insurance cost. Medical is by far the largest part of that. Our renewal for medical came in at a flat rate, and we went back to the broker and asked about their fee structure, and by moving to a per employee per month fee structure instead of a percentage, we reduced that amount by 0.6%. So we're coming in at 0.6% under where we were at last year. Blue Cross is their current medical provider. Our recommendation is to remain with them through a level funded health plan. What that is this type of self-insured plan that as part of our premium, we pay the benefit or the claims up to a certain level, and then we have reinsurance that picks up if it's a larger level claim. That's to help us control our exposure and make sure our premiums remain consistent throughout the year. We do have the opportunity at the end of the year if claims and administrative expenses are low that we can recoup some of that through a cost share with Blue Cross, although we don't expect that will occur. So our recommendation is to stay with Blue Cross, the same plan designs that we currently have, standard PPO plan, and the high deductible health plan with the employer contribution of $1,500 to a health savings account for participating employees. Our recommendation is to stay with those, and those 2 options provide equal benefits to the employees that participate.
Carlton, do you mind if I jump in?
Sure.
So it's not normal that health insurance companies come in and say, we're going to keep your rate flat or even lower it a little bit. So the team did a great job, Angie, Carlton, and Dana, negotiating with our current provider and through our broker. But also they were looking at other options, which is kind of the leverage we use to get a better rate. So kudos to them, saved a bunch of money. There's probably a $200,000 savings there from what we had expected we would be paying to what we're now going to be paying in fiscal year 26 or calendar year 26.
Budgeted amount to what we're saving is right at 200,000. So
Is this a valid question? But, I mean, the medical providers in this area accept this company as far as claims?
Yeah.
yes, it's probably the most widely accepted in the area. We've had Cigna and First Carolina Care, and from an employee standpoint, like the network standpoint, it's Blue Cross is probably the best that we've had.
Okay.
We receive a lot less complaints about that than the other carriers.
Just a curiosity question, why is the health benefits plan linked to a calendar year rather than our fiscal year?
That's just the way we've always done it.
Okay.
Part of the IRS regulation. So like a high deductible health plan, they make changes to what you can contribute to the health savings account and what the deductibles are for that. That takes place on January 1st. So that's really why.
That makes sense, I just.
So medical, we show a negative 0.6% decrease there. And that's premiums compared to 2025. The thing to point out with that is the PwC Health Research Institute shows that nationwide group plans typically have increased 8.5% this year. So I think that we as a team have done a really good job in reining in our health costs through our health and wellness programs and benefits that we offer to our employees. I think that we've done a great job with that. 5-year average for that, we've decreased 3.1% on average over 5 years. So medical is also available to dependents at 100%, with the employees paying 100% of the full cost. And I guess 100% is the full cost, but employees pay the full cost, and we've got about 14% of our employees that participate in that. As part of their renewal, Blue Cross also offered a $25,000 credit to us to remain a customer of theirs. That is not reflected in the 0.6%, but it is reflected in the overall medical, vision, and dental net change of 3.3%. So what is that, $50,000, $53,000 between the changes in vision, dental, and the Blue Cross, and the $25,000 credit that they'll provide to us. We're recommending vision change to Mutual of Omaha from Principal. That's a 32% decrease in the premiums. Benefits are the same. Dependent coverage is also available with the employees paying the full cost. Dental, we're recommending the change to Mutual of Omaha as our provider from Principal. That's a 15% decrease in the premiums. That's a slightly improved benefit that would allow dependents to stay on the plan through age 26. And it also is a true reset of the orthodontia benefit. So the $1,000 coverage for that, it resets back to zero, whereas normally it's a lifetime maximum.
Just to be clear, Carlton did that after my kids got their braces on 3 weeks ago, so.
We want to keep the rates low.
Yeah.
So the things that could affect that, turnover, lapse time, and position vacancies, number of staff that we have at any time could affect what that is. The premium of $1.5 million is actually, it includes 100% of the people that are on the plan, so it's employees and dependents, which is the way the contract is written. Dependent coverage is about $100,000 of that. But that, again, that is paid 100% by the employee for those that participate in that. Any questions on medical, vision, or dental?
I just want to refresh my memory. I think it was last year we discussed some changes we were making regarding health savings accounts or something like that for our employees. Did we go through with that, or does anyone?
We did add, and I think this is our 4th year of a high deductible plan.
It's your 4th year.
So the high deductible plan allows employees to opt, they either take, we've got 72% of employees on traditional PPO plan, 28% are on the high deductible plan. And by switching to the high deductible plan, they get a $1,500 contribution to the health savings account. And those are equal benefits, so that's roughly equal to what the PPO plan costs. Long-term, high deductible plan is helping to save helping us to rein in the cost of health insurance.
Did the participation rate remain relatively where they are? Has there been an
I
increase?
think it increases year over year slightly.
It's just like-
We're going to try to do an educational campaign to help them see the benefits of the consumer-driven plan and how they can impact their own cost for health insurance.
Out of the gate, we had about 24 people the very first year we had a high deductible plan. And now we're at about 40.
So life and accidental death and dismemberment, you see the 15% increase there. One thing to point out with that, we're recommending to stay competitive with our peer groups, that we increase the amount of life insurance offered to employees and also make it standard across the board for our eligible employees. So some are covered at $25,000, others are covered at $50,000. This proposal increases the coverage to all eligible employees to $50,000.
So your $2,000 a week raise it for everyone?
That is correct.
Okay.
Others are remaining the same. We're changing carriers, so we'll have one carrier for all of that through Mutual of Omaha. Cost of the others are 0% increase. Although the net change at 15% looks high, it's only $2,100. So overall, our renewals for this year are about $51,000 less, and they're about $51,000 less than the premiums from 2025, and it is about premiums from 2025, and it is about $200,000. These are the liability insurance coverage lines for everything in the village except the harness track. For everything in the village except the harness track. Harness track's covered through Markel, and it's because the league does not offer coverage for the specialty equine. The police professional, public officials, employee benefits and practices liability covers our automobiles, buildings, vehicles, everything that we have. So we cover about $48 million worth of property, contents, and vehicles.
All replacement costs?
Close to replacement cost. So the one thing to point out there, we talked about a couple of months ago, is the cyber liability coverage. That out separately just because it's new for this year. That being included with property and liability, our increase for the year would be 10.5%. That was $15,118.
So what is the exposure on cyber liability and what's covered and what is that? Give us a scenario where we would actually incur a loss there.
So probably a month after we implemented that policy, this was not a loss, so I'll be clear on that, but we received, personally, a lot of people did this, I probably received 200 emails trying to get me to click on a link. So the phishing scams, someone did get in and access their information. They would have access to employees, addresses, birth dates, social security numbers. So it's like if you have the data breach, the credit monitoring that is paid for usually a couple of years when that happens. I've had it happen a couple of times. It would cover that.
Be the claim.
The claim.
The claim would be for, we had to provide credit monitoring for a year for X number of employees or something because of this.
Correct.
attack.
So if ransomware, if they got into our network and we wouldn't pay a ransom, but they could help us restore our equipment.
Yeah, that could be really nasty.
Could be. They could help us get back up and running a lot quicker than IT could do. IT is very capable. They do a great job, but they just have they have more resources and the ability to also to help us monitor what we're doing and offer solutions ahead of the actual event to try to prevent it from happening. So I hope it's something that we never use, but all it takes is a click on an email or opening a file, and we get the emails as part of our training through IT that you know, if you click it, you have to do remedial training, so everyone's afraid to click any links. So.
Don't send a link.
Or open PDFs.
And I did it once, and I was like, I had to get that extra training.
Oh, now you get extra training.
Like, yeah, okay,
The
great.
know before training. But it makes
Critical stuff, and I just, what's shocking to me on there is that the cost of cyber liability is the same cost of doing property liability.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
saying something.
Now, the cyber liability is only 15,000.
Okay,
He's
thank
just
you.
adding it on, yeah.
Thank you,
So
okay,
that
that's
includes
shocking to me.
268 plus 15 is
All
283.
right,
So.
I'm glad I misunderstood
Yeah.
that. I was gonna dive down that hole here pretty soon.
I crafted it like that to try to get a question out of it.
Okay.
But-
Well, you clickbait, you got me again. There you go. Another course.
Property liability and cyber, we did go back to market this year. Risk management, the committee helps us to, the two citizen reps helps us to manage that and monitor what the market's doing from the insurance world. Just to make sure we're competitive and getting the biggest bang for our buck. So the league did remain the best choice for us to remain with this year. So we do look for the best option to offer the best coverage that we can. Workers' comp, we changed carriers this year for a 9.2% savings. We went to Key Risk through the Gallagher. No, it's actually through Surrey Insurance. And so that was the change this year. I feel like for better premiums and better customer service. So upper right, the Wellness and Safety Committee activities. Those are two of the things that we do that I think make what we do as an organization successful and as a risk management committee. So we have an employee activity and wellness committee. They offer exercise challenges, flu shot clinics, farm to table to encourage healthy eating. They do blood drives, and then from the moving standpoint and exercise standpoint, we have a team in the turkey trot every year that we try to make it through 0.1 mile as a group, although we finish at different times. And then safety committee has quarterly drills in village buildings. They review incidents to look for trends as well. We do some monthly safety inspections of the buildings to look for truly OSHA identified things to see if there are issues in buildings to make sure we are safe. They restock our first aid kits, and then they also maintain the public access AEDs that we have in the village. And then at the bottom, you know, one of the things to highlight is to also show that what we are doing is working. Is 3 of our higher risk departments, and I'll touch wood as I say that, have worked a considerable amount of time without a lost time accident. So fleets at 4,506 days, and this was as the middle of the month. Public services is 902 days, and fire department is 367 days.
But why isn't police there, or are they under public services?
Police is not there because they haven't reached a record yet. They frequently, because of that altercations that they have injuries to employees that they're taken out of commission for a while.
We didn't want to put 3 up there.
Okay.
We're just highlighting the ones who have.
Oh, okay, these are the big ones, okay.
Yeah, the big ones. Police does do a great job considering the job that what they have to do to not have major injuries, but they just sometimes have people taken out of work.
Now, these 3 services have a lot of moving equipment, and so that's a big danger.
They do. All right, that's everything that I have. With that, I'll be glad to try to answer questions.
And it reminds us to see a reduction in insurance costs from year to year. Thanks.
We've worked hard at that.
Yeah, I gotta get you to do it.
All right, do we, thank you, Carlton, we thank the committee. We are now,
We do need a motion to,
well, I was gonna, other business. Is there any other business?
Oh, we need a motion for this.
I move to approve the 2026 medical and dental insurance contracts
Didn't
and
see that.
authorize the mayor and their designated execute contracts.
Motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All righty, now we can go on to other business. Is there any other business, members of the council?
I'd just like to follow up on the Sand Hills Women's Exchange, just in Doug, I know you're gonna lead that one right there.
Yeah.
It's just through email. keep us informed of it.
Yep, will do.
Okay. Anything else? All right, why don't we, if someone would like to make a motion, we can adjourn for 5 minutes.
Adjourn. Go ahead. Second.
Okay, so, adopted.
7:20, or you want 10 minutes? Or
7:20.
Are we doing it right, Ken?
7:21.
7:20, well, we're a little late, we're a little late. Not gonna be a stickler on this. Alright, get rid of this. Done.
You have a second, I can talk to you about some mail the mayor got?
How am I doing?
I've been sitting right there. It's much easier. I was in the office for a little bit when they
Dan, do you have any new information about Raleigh and 382 or anything like that, what they're doing up there?
No, in fact, I need to look and see, I hadn't had a chance to look at whatever bill they
Yeah,
started up today. I'm gonna look into that
it's always a mystery.
on that.
Maybe one of those to pick up. You say that, I'll have the whole thing. You'll have to do it.
I'll push back. I'll start doing one of these.
We are all accounted for. We will call to order the Pinehurst Village Work Session meeting for September 23rd, 2025. We will move on to the topic of general business. We have two items, and then we will enter a closed session to discuss another item. First topic is discussion regarding appointed advisory board term limits policy. Doug, why don't you review this? It seems like it was just a few years ago we adopted the policy.
We
So
did.
go ahead.
It was actually one of my first tasks when I came here as assistant village manager, so you have me to blame for this. We had a BOA appointments that were 3 years and other appointments that were 2 years. And I was like, that's weird, let's just all make it consistent. And so I picked 2 years, not knowing that there was actual statutory language that the BOA should be 3 years. So I am suggesting that we move all of our committees and boards to 3-year terms. And to keep it consistent, we'll have 2 3-year terms, so they'll remain a total of 6 years that they could potentially serve on a committee.
On A, or can they go from one committee to another after 2 terms?
They could, I mean, ultimately, council is who
Right,
appoints
sure,
them. Yeah.
sure. And is how does the handoff take place? Because there's some people who are in the second year or.
Yeah, so what I would recommend that we do is, as appointments expire, that any new appointments we just do for 3 years.
3 years, and that way it all catch up eventually.
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to search my memory, other than probably Doug convinced this council at the time to go for 2 years. Was there a discussion, Dr. Morgan, do you recall anything that we dwelled on about 2 years? Or
Well, maybe dwelled on it, we discussed it,
Yeah.
it would be easier. And then discussed on, changed from there, it wasn't a big conversation.
Yeah, I can't recall,
And
that's
then we
why.
just sort of, we went with the recommendations and
Okay.
then go for it, but if there's a statute,
Yeah.
For
I think it's a pretty simple discussion now, the statute's a statute.
Yeah, the question is, do you want them all to be consistent, be 3 years, or some 3 and some 2?
Right.
It would make it a little easier for Shannon to have to track all of them if they were all the same.
3.
Jack, did you, as a former member of a advisory committee?
Yeah, I was there for 3 years the first time, and so I never understood why we changed it to 2 years.
Okay. So we are,
And the statute only talks about the board of adjustment.
Right, the
It's
board
not
of adjustment.
mentioned,
Just the board of
committee. I had 3 years makes sense to me for a lot of reasons. Surprisingly, it can take you a year or two to get kind of up to speed on what's going
Sure.
on and how you do it and so forth. And so I think 3 years makes more sense.
yeah. And then there's the question also, well, he's filling them. You got 3 years, is a little more lead time.
Yeah, you have less turnover.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Okay,
That'd be really nice.
that's another nice advantage. Do we have any other thoughts on this, or is everybody comfortable with just going to the 3 years?
Is John
3
still with us?
years?
Because he's, been on HPC, and so he might know.
He's in there, I can.
Technically,
Yeah,
he's not supposed to.
He's not supposed to participate,
That's
so
Never mind.
he can send me his comments after.
Yeah.
So
Right.
Be
Okay.
surprised.
I can follow up with John, but.
Okay. Well then,
Can you hear me?
it's okay.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Let's stay legal.
Yeah.
If I were allowed to participate, I would be in favor of 3 years.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
unfortunately, you're not.
That's hypothetical.
You're putting your thumb on the scale of Doug trying to run this in a very legal manner. Well, Doug, I think there's a consensus that we move to 3.
Can we pass resolutions in a work session?
You can, but we need to update the policy language anyway. So.
Right, and okay, so we'll see it.
Bring it back
We'll
next
bring
time.
it back, yeah.
And I think it's also good to do a little rollout when we do this. One, advise our current members, and then let the public know in case there are some people who thought, I don't want to apply for something for 2 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the public want to know it's another step in some of the management of our village. And
I don't think it'll be that dramatic a change.
no, I don't think so either. It makes sense. I just think it's a good opportunity to remind people if they want to serve the 3-year commitment. Okay, so we'll look for this to be brought back whenever you're ready, Doug. Could be next meeting or after that. And with everything else that has to get updated when we do that. Okay, the next item is from Shannon and Doug.
It's really just from Shannon.
Just from
so
Shannon.
I will let Shannon explain this. She's been tasked as the 250th Celebration Committee Chair.
All right.
If you want an official title like that. We'll
Okay.
give you one. Yeah.
So as the memo notes, July 4th next year is the semi-quincentennial, or the 250th anniversary of the United States. There is an America 250 North Carolina chapter that Audrey and myself have been kind of trying to get ideas from. They're set up to function state down to county. We don't have a Moore County committee, so it's kind of going state to Audrey and myself. So we're doing the best we can. These are the ideas that we pulled from meetings, a team meeting that we had with America 250 North Carolina. So the first idea is to do a proclamation making December 15th, 2025 the Bill of Rights Day in the village, because the Bill of Rights was ratified in 1791 on that date.
That's one. Okay.
And that's a very important bedrock of the American Constitution is the Bill of Rights. Then January 1st, 1863 was when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, another really, really important turn in the history of the United States, giving everyone equal rights in terms of no matter what. Ended slavery. So we're proposing to make January 1st, 2026 Emancipation Proclamation Day in the village. Then for sometime in January 2026, we haven't set on a date exactly yet. We'd like to have a Beyond the Liberty Tree event. We're still looking at either Marshall or Cannon Park, where we would install a southern live oak. We're pricing container oaks versus a B&B burlap ball tree. The burlap, the B&B tree would be significantly larger and would require someone to come and actually help us install it. So we're just pricing what the largest container tree we could get that we could plant ourselves would be versus doing a more substantial tree would be. So we're gonna plant the landmark tree, which will have a plaque designating it as such that it's a landmark tree and that it was planted in celebration of the 250th anniversary. We also would like to do a village-wide time capsule that we would bury at the site with the landmark tree to be opened at the tricentennial. And we thought that the ideal planting time is January, February for these types of trees because they're dormant at that time of year, so we could plant it and allow it to kind of settle in and start to get established before the heat set. And January happens to coincide with when the village first welcomed visitors, so it would be kind of a double meeting to plant the tree in January. So that's the first really big event that we're kind of looking at. And also Audrey had the idea to move the time capsule that's currently housed at the library over to Village Hall for display during that time. So it would be bringing that time capsule over and celebrating it while also bearing a new time capsule to be opened later on. Then March 4th, 2026 coincides with the first day that the first U.S. Congress convened under the newly ratified Constitution. So we were proposing to show the American Constitution documentary movie, either in Assembly Hall or the Fair Barn, depending on how many residents respond that they'd like to attend. The movie should be free. It was produced by UNCW and actually filmed predominantly in Wilmington, North Carolina. So we're just trying to figure out how to get access to the movie right now, but we would sell tickets, sell them, but they would be free. It would just be to basically keep track of how many people want to come so we could do crowd control and make sure the venue was large enough. We'd get little snack bags of popcorn and some waters for people too, but so it would be the documentary movie on the 4th, and then also to plant the small, like little personal flags that people carry for July 4th sometimes, plant 250 of those.
Oh, these are the tiny flags.
Yeah, the tiny little flags. Yeah.
I thought, my first vision was these big ones, no.
Oh, yeah, no.
Okay.
Tiny little flags.
I get it. Good idea.
And then the last thing that I have on the list there for you is one of the ideas that came from the Utah chapter of America 250 is to do an America's Potluck. That slightly terrifies a lot of staff to think about eating food from someone's kitchen that we've not seen or met. So we kind of spun that a little bit and came up with, well, why don't we do a recipe book? So it still engages family recipes from residents in a way that is a little safer and more more friendly to
I like that one. I think that could be, that could really go over well. I think the rest of
I
the
liked it too. I thought it was great.
I think that'll.
I'd encourage kind of the melting pot idea of America, because the recipe on here is not just, okay, what do you have from 1776 about apple pie and ice cream and stuff like that, but it's, the people from Italy, I'm sorry, you're close to me here, to pick on this, so your family's got Italian recipes on that, or
Irish
Germany, or Irish, or, that kind of stuff, but actually kind of put the melting pot flavor to it, of this is what America is.
Yeah.
Give us a different type
I
of.
think that really is, that can go a long way. Yeah.
I'm not afraid of the potluck idea, though. If everyone wanted to bring food anyway, I still am.
Doug's much more brave when it comes to food than I am. Yeah, so we thought of the idea, the Stars and Stripes and Shared Traditions, a Pinehurst recipe collection celebrating America's 250 years. That would be the title for it. And like Jeff touched on, people would submit their recipe, but also we'd ask that they give a brief paragraph about where did it come from? Is it an Italian recipe? Is it Irish? I know in my family we have something that my great-grandmother made called fricadilly, which is, from everything we can gather, a Norwegian or Scandinavian type recipe. Yeah, so, yeah.
Americano, man.
So where did it come from, and tell us why it's important to you.
Oh, yeah. Give it enough lead time, that could be really wonderful.
I make a motion that we prohibit eggs Benedict, though.
Nah, I get it.
It shouldn't
Right,
be.
well,
Go ahead. Gosh.
Where's the McMahon when you need it?
Yeah, well, some of my good ideas. What are we gonna do on July 4th?
So July 4th should be the fireworks and the standard type of event, but beefed up a little bit more. So that's something that we'd need to coordinate with Parks and Rec to do our standard 4th celebration, but make it a little bit more special and a little more extravagant, I guess, for the celebration.
We're also trying to talk with Aberdeen and Southern Pines, like what are their 4th of July events. So
Yeah, it'd be nice to have like a Tri-Cities organized, semi-organized.
Yeah.
Is there anything we can do where we involve the Pinehurst Elementary School?
Yes.
Just put it down as a possibility of,
We have, I didn't get it on the list here because Audrey and Kristen and I are still trying to figure some details out on it. There are 3 books that the UNC Press has published that are specific to Revolutionary time history in North Carolina. So we're going to buy a copy of those books and organize storytime events for the kids around those specific books. So that's something where we could involve Pinehurst Elementary and
Okay.
the little ones in the area.
Oh, see, this is page 4 of 6, you've got 2 more pages of ideas.
Oh, the rest is for close.
Oh, never mind.
that's why I raised it. You cut it off. Just a few other thoughts. I'm glad to hear about the July 4th thing. I mean, that's the day of concentration with the press and everybody, so we ought to factor in what we might or might not do with the pilot. They may have some special insert
Yeah.
or something like that, so just think about that. That's very possible. Two other things. One is, how can we get a few more citizens onto your steering committee, or you're the chairman, but I'm just wondering whether we get former mayors or current chairs of advisory boards, just get a handful of other citizens that will, provide support and input and all, and we can put a little something up on the website, and
I think we could definitely engage the Neighborhood Advisory Committee
maybe
members.
that's it.
That'd be great.
That's a good idea.
Beautification, I think, would be another good one. So now that we have a little bit of a more solidified plan and you guys seem to be on board with what we're thinking, we can start doing a little bit of engagement with our committee members and advisory members
Yeah.
to help us. I know especially with the recipe book, it's not going to be anything fancy. It'll have a designed front cover and back cover. The inside's going to be basically Word documents put together. We're not going to have like graphics or pictures or anything, but compiling it all together, maybe going through and grouping recipes in terms of desserts and mains and sides and things like that would be something that we could definitely use help with. So compiling and organizing.
Okay.
And
Testing.
Yeah.
Food tasters, yes, they're food tasters for them.
And then
Give it a
promoting
star
it.
rating.
Yeah.
The Woodward's scale.
We're hoping that the sales of the recipe book, we could put those towards the new library.
That's a good idea.
So-
Yeah.
Well,
And
yeah,
of course,
in the past, I've had a few conversations with the National Park Service about this 250th. And, because they've asked me first on is there, what are you thinking, how could you help contribute with the recognition and so forth? And in our conversations, we realized that, it's hard to go back to 1776 and
right.
because we can't. But in fact, what they implied was that the celebration of the 250 years, a little bit of the celebration they're trying to work in is how the country evolved in various regions, sections, cities, or whatever, and maybe there's a hook there. I'm not exactly sure how to articulate that, but that's the only thing we could come up with together. Maybe our evolution as a forest into a town is an American story that they could possibly, and I can talk to you more about that.
Yeah, please
whether or not
do.
it makes sense. I mean, the National Park Service right now is kind of full of a lot of things going on, but that may be an interesting.
And of course, we have that connection between Donald Ross and his great-great-grandmother, Betsy Ross. So I don't know if people know that.
I went to a,
I made that up, guys. Oh, boy.
I'm not going to call her.
I went to a presentation at the Moore County Senior Center last week by Matt Farina,
Oh, yeah.
It was the history of Moore County.
Yes.
He went back 25,000 years.
Yeah,
to,
sure.
Like when the cavemen were here. So, but it was interesting that he has all this history, and he talks a lot about the Revolutionary War and what happened in Moore County during that time frame. So we may be able to pick out some of that, because he's really, really into that.
Well, we're not too far off of some of the battles that did occur during the Revolutionary War.
That's correct.
Okay, so Kings Mountain, which is to our south, of course, not in our specific zone, what was a battle that we had, and of course you had Cornwallis go right through this area and camped over at Fort Bragg.
There was a lot of Tories, and the Scots defended the king all along, and there was a lot of battles back and forth during that time frame.
And is that first, one of the first justices on the Supreme Court was Mr. Moore.
That's right.
So he must
By
have
the
been-
way, he was only 4'9" tall.
Yeah, back then, that's like being a professional basketball player. That's 250 years ago.
Now it's like being Barb Fittler.
No offense to people.
right.
Shannon, I think you got some good guidance here with, see about the Tri-Cities, the National Park Service,
Maybe
the Pinehurst Elementary School, stuff like, get some more people on your committee and
Moore County history.
Moore County,
What
Historical
happened in this
Society.
area, during that time frame.
And
Once again, it's the Park Service is focused a little bit on the whole history of America, the 250-year evolution. So keep that in mind. It isn't just looking at 1776.
Right.
It's looking at the evolution of the country over those 250 years.
and ignore the whole thing about Betsy Ross and only that.
And also don't want to forget the idea that it is still the signing of the Declaration of Independence,
Yes.
which arguably is one of the great writings that Western civilization has produced, okay? And it's been referenced quite a bit, and certainly it's referencing all principles of Locke and things like that. But let's not forget the Declaration itself, and maybe a reading of that, or
It's a good idea.
Well, that's a good idea.
in the town hall, have the reading of the Declaration of Independence or something. So,
That's a good idea, yeah.
We can even get kids to read sections of it, and do something like that.
perfect.
Okay.
Last thing, not exactly on topic, but we're gonna be celebrating the 25th anniversary of the 9/11 episode in the country. So we ought to give it just a little thought. That's gonna probably be a bigger deal in September, the 25th anniversary.
That might be,
And so, just think about that. We've got some time here, but I just think it's gonna be a really big thing for America. Go through that. Okay, anything else for us? Great job, thank you, Shannon.
good start there.
All right, got that.
All right.
And now we need a motion.
I move to adjourn the closed session and re-enter the work session. Think we're doing that? No?
No.
I move to recess the work session and enter a closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A6 to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment, and conditions of initial employment of an individual public officer, employee, or prospective public officer, or employee, or to hear or investigate a complaint, charge, grievance by or against an individual public officer or employee.
Second.
Motion is second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's adopt the room for this meeting,
Now, a closed session.
and we'll go to closed session.
Good question from the cheap seats here. Am I gonna be able to stay on for this?
I don't know why you can't.
I don't know what do you have a policy on remote attendance in closed session?
We're not allowed to have remote attendance since the emergency was
Yeah,
called off for
authorization
COVID.
of that, but yeah. So you don't have any.
We don't have a policy
We don't have a
that
policy.
specifically allows it.
Yeah, I
Okay.
would say probably should be.
I would think it would be okay because no public comment is allowed anyway, but I'm just asking the question.
I think we'll probably, I think we're safer to defer not to do it, based on what you're,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to stay legal here.
yeah.
No, I would definitely like to stay legal. I will sign off.
Okay, thank you, John. Good luck, take care.
There you go.
Okay.
I'm going to close this out then.
Just like that.